Chapter 231 Body Transformation. After he said this, Yang Chen couldn't help but look down at his body, and he was completely startled when he did so. The clothes on his body had surprisingly become too small for him at some point of time, although they weren't completely stretched taut, however he clearly looked very funny. After sweeping with spiritual awareness, he immediately became clear about everything. During the few days he cultivated the Zhanxian Lisi body refining technique, Yang Chen's figure had increased rapidly. His body wasn't well proportioned anymore, rather his muscles had increased greatly, turning him into a bodybuilder. Cultivators, especially those who have reached foundation stage, have automatic transformation in their body once the spirit energy of the world enters to body. Generally, very few people would have the figure of a strong man with their entire body full of muscles. Most of the cultivators prefer well-proportioned bodies since it has great benefits in both cultivations and coordinating with others. But presently, Yang Chen had surprisingly transformed into a strong man with large muscles. His entire body seemed to be exploding with muscles. A single glance would leave the impression of overflowing power on anyone. However, this kind of body figure didn't provide any great superiority among the battle between cultivators, thus very few people would willingly let themselves be transformed into such appearance. However, some people who cultivate special body techniques would have this kind of body. How could Yang Chen's appearance transform so much? Gao Yu and Gongsun were completely at a loss. Once he stood up, Yang Chen discovered that his height, which originally was only a little more than the two women, had increased by much. Now if he wanted to look at them, he had to bow down his head to see. Looking at the short clothes covering his body, Yang Chen forced a bitter smile while shaking his head and offered an explanation. I had encountered a good cultivation method and wanted to give it a try, thus causing this transformation. On his one side, the enormous stone stele was lying not too far from them. It could be assumed that they both understood what it was used for. Looking at Yang Chen's comical appearance with unfitting clothes, both of them couldn't control laughing and burst out laughing. They completely were unworried that Yang Chen would have cultivated some unsuitable cultivation method which had created problems in his cultivation base. In this field, Yang Chen's knowledge and experience far surpassed both of them. So when they saw Yang Chen's comical appearance, they were unable to control their laughter. Yang Chen knew that he looked a little funny right now, so he didn't pay any attention to the reaction of the both of them and directly went to the enormous stone stele lying on the other side. But before he bowed down and grabbed it to test his strength, Gongsun shouted. "Let me try." Once these words left her mouth, Yang Chen didn't contest with her. Gongsun walked over here and grabbed the two metal handles refined by Yang Chen with both hands. She rotated her spirit energy which spread everywhere and the enormous stele was slowly left the ground. The tender female lifting an enormous stone stele which was almost 10 meters in height and multiple times thicker than her waist. If some ordinary person would have witnessed this scene, he will certainly be extremely shocked. But here, in the eyes of Yang Chen and Gao Yu, this wasn't anything exceptional. If someone with a cultivation of mid-foundation stage didn't have the strength to lift a weight of 30,000 caddies, then she can only be considered as extremely weak. Yang Chen, what use is your cultivation method? Gongsun easily placed down the stone stele. She didn't seem out of breath and was completely relaxed. It doesn't seem very difficult to me. I just found this cultivation method and wanted to try, that's all. Yang Chen also didn't offer much explanation. Some things were better left unexplained as they couldn't know that this is a cultivation method which could only be used by someone of the heavenly court. So he only gave a single line explanation to elaborate how formidable it was. Additionally, though it isn't difficult, but it also isn't too easy. Yang Chen again supplemented and walked forward a few steps, reaching the stone stele. His one foot lightly touched the corner of the stone stele and the enormous stele suddenly flew high in the air as if it was suddenly struck by some large force. When it started to fell down with great momentum, Yang Chen stretched one hand and grabbed one handle within midair and stopped the stone stele from falling downwards and lifted it above his head. All of its weight was controlled by Yang Chen using just one arm. Grabbing this metal handle, Yang Chen easily swung the stone stele through the air. Terrifying sounds echoed through the air and the stone stele was used by Yang Chen with one hand, like using a rod in a systematic manner. However, regardless of whether he chopped down or swept across, it didn't encounter any material and was only swept and chopped through empty air. After finishing the set of moves, Yang Chen lifted the stone stele and nimbly erected it by his side without disturbing even a speck of dust. The enormous stone stele was like a straw in his hand. When Gongsun saw Yang Chen's actions, she couldn't help but burst out laughing again, so much so that she couldn't stand properly. Gao Yu standing by her side, although wasn't so excessive as Gongsun and still had her mouth closed, but her both shoulders were trembling incessantly trying to control her laughter. Actually, the clothes on Yang Chen's body were too unsuitable, so regardless of how elegant his movements were, they only seemed like a monkey performing tricks. It certainly seems like your strength has increased. Finally the two women stopped laughing, Gongsun Ling said still smiling. But didn't you say it wasn't so difficult? Little Ling, Yang Chen's thinking is impossible for us. Bao Yu standing by her side wasn't smiling anymore and pointed out to Gongsun Ling. Everything he had done until now isn't just him getting lucky. After all, being in the Jidan stage, her judgment was much better compared to Gongsun Ling. She could see Yang Chen's ferociousness with one look. Gongsun Ling was a clever person and she immediately understood what the words meant and was instantly stupefied, not daring to laugh anymore. Just by relying on power of physical body, he could easily swing around the enormous stele weighing more than 30,000 caddies. What kind of terrifying strength was this? They had heard long ago that Yang Chen's physical strength was astonishing. Before he had began his cultivation, he had beaten Sun Heijing unconscious using Sun Heijing's own 1000-caddy talisman, but both women had never expected that the strength of Yang Chen's physical body would surprisingly reach this stage. Within an instant, even Gao Yu was also completely astonished. That enormous stone stele weighing more than 30,000 caddies was like air in Yang Chen's hands, he could move it around so easily, so presently how powerful was he exactly? Both women were already at a loss, is this still a human? Presently Yang Chen was feeling a burst of happiness. With only first-time cultivation, his physical body's strength had already surpassed 30,000 caddies. With just this cultivation outcome, he could have easily blocked the golden seal of that Yuning stage expert from few years ago just by relying on his physical body. What's more, this Yuangjin strongman body refining technique not only increases the power of fleshly body, it also refines and tempers it, and even the strength of the person will also be upgraded by a substantial degree. From inside to outside, from bones to skin, everything had experienced a complex transformation. As his fleshly body become increasingly more formidable, even his defensive power will also continue to increase. Bones are the main pillar of support for the body. If he wants his body to be able to support a weight of more than 200,000 caddies, then his bones must certainly be able to support comparatively higher pressure. Even the muscles also followed the same reasoning. Yang Chen knew that this moment was still too far, these were the results of first-time cultivation, that's all. As he continued to walk down this path, his body structure would undergo increasingly more transformations. In the future, he wouldn't even need to rely on defensive magic weapons. Just by relying on his physical body, he would be able to block the attacks of majority of magic weapons. Yuangjin strongman's only weak point was his speed, but in this case, Yang Chen certainly didn't have that flaw. These strongmen couldn't use any other cultivation methods, that's why they had relied on this method, but this wasn't the case for Yang Chen. Moreover, Yang Chen also knew that as his cultivation of this Yuangjin strongman cultivation method continues to increase, his body will undergo more and more enormous transformations. His body certainly won't continue to have this bodybuilder type structure, rather finally it would tend to become well proportioned as the cultivators preferred, but its formidable power won't be affected the least bit. After ascending to the heavenly court, there wouldn't be great possibility to encounters opportunities to allow the body to undergo transformation before one's cultivation reaches the rank of Great Principle Golden Immortal. Very rarely can someone reach the rank of Yuangjin strongman, so his first choice was to create a formidable fleshly body right now. Yang Chen had just began his cultivation in the mortal world and still had 2 opportunities to ascend, so undergoing body transformation depended on his willingness. Moreover, even a fool could see that when will he have higher achievement in this cultivation method, if he starts cultivating now when he had just began on the path of cultivation, or if he starts cultivating this technique after ascending to immortal world. However, for the period of time, Yang Chen could only maintain this body build. At least, until Yang Chen had achieved great success in this Yuangjin strongman body refining technique, after that his body would again undergo transformation. Regarding this, Yang Chen didn't care in the least whether cultivator's battle prowess has any relation with his body appearance. His biggest problem right now were his clothes, every time they looked at him, both women couldn't control their laughs. After they had enough fun on his expense, Gao Yu and Gongsun Ling didn't return back to train, rather searched through their Qiankan pouches to search for some demon beast's corpse to peel the skin and make clothes for Yang Chen. Yang Chen had never expected to see the day when he would be calmly preparing tea by the side of his master and senior apprentice sister, watching their lily-white hands which were used for tool refining and creating spell formations, sewing clothes for himself. This warm sensation was on another level compared to instant he had received the bright ray sword. Even if both of them weren't skillful with their hands, but still their proficient control over their flying swords allowed them to easily control the sewing needles. Furthermore, with Gao Yu's achievements in tool refining, it only took the two women less than 2 days to create a leather pants and gown using the skins of demon beasts. These clothes had not only been sewed, but also undergone simple refining by Gao Yu. However, since these were just for temporary use by Yang Chen, they also haven't put much thought in making them. But even then, Yang Chen excitedly picked them up and quickly rushed to the empty palace hall to try out the gown and pants. This time, since they were made in accordance to his present body appearance, so after adorning them, they were completely fit for him. What's more, since they had been sewed in front of him by his master and senior apprentice sister, he felt a cozy sensation after wearing them. When he came out of the hall in front of Gao Yu and Gongsun Ling, a shine passed through their eyes on seeing Yang Chen wearing these clothes, even though both of them had been the ones who designed this outfit. Gao Yu had specially designed the gown and pants in heroic style matching with Yang Chen's present valiant body. When Yang Chen wore them, the lining of his swelled muscles could be clearly seen on the outfit, simply like a living violent statue. The blatant sensation of power produced by stretching of muscles together with Yang Chen's strong presence was extremely bewitching. Gongsun Ling's face turned red since these clothes didn't cover his entire body, the part of arm below the shoulders was exposed, which made him look wild. Even Gao Yu's face also turned red, her gaze remained fixated on the ground for a few moments before she again dared to look back at Yang Chen. Many thanks master, many thanks senior apprentice sister. Yang Chen expressed his gratefulness to both women, however then he shamelessly puffed up his chest and said. The handiwork of master and senior apprentice sister seem pretty good, how do I look? In the first glance, you seem like some hired thug of somewhere. Gongsun Ling again made fun of him and laughed. When Gao Yu heard this, she also smiled gently. This one smile removed all the awkwardness in the atmosphere. Good, master and senior apprentice sister, in the future, the responsibility of being the hired thug of this cave would belong to me. Yang Chen also made a joke, which again caused everyone to laugh. Following this, Yang Chen asked them about the results of their training, as well as their future plans. Gongsun Ling didn't have anything on her mind and was of the intent to continue training, but Gao Yu didn't want to do so. We must again make a trip back to the sect for now. Gao Yu was senior most person among the 3 people, and thus her words carried the most weight. Presently, Yang Chen is the most important disciple of the sect, so he couldn't disappear for a long time. At least, we must let the sect know that you are safe. Otherwise, it will attract all sorts of troubles. Yang Chen was presently one of the most important people in Puryang Palace. Everyone was well aware of this. If he traveled outside to gain experience for 1 or 2 years, that's not a problem, but if he remained outside for a long time, that would be something the sect wouldn't allow. Gao Yu was aware of this fact. Yang Chen also understood. Then you both should continue to train for 6 more months, after 6 months, we will return back to the sect. Yang Chen nodded his head agreeing with Gao Yu's intentions. Both women also didn't waste any time and again stepped out of the safe zone and began to gain battle experience by fighting demon beasts and puppets. As for Yang Chen, he again immersed himself within the jade slips. Qikui and Xia also would come over to take a look from time to time. Yang Chen also notified them about their next plans during last visit. During these past 2 periods, he also didn't know about what happened at 100,000 Mountains, so he also must visit there once he returned back. After approximately 5 months, less than 1 month's time was left before he had to leave with Gao Yu and Gongsun Ling. At this time, Yang Chen who was immersed within the jade slips and he suddenly discovered an abnormality in the medicine garden's clean bottle. This legendary cave was full of spirit energy which Yang Chen had used long ago to fulfill the lack in his clean bottle, and the clean bottle could absorb the spirit energy at all times, thus would always be full of spirit energy. But at this instant, Yang Chen suddenly discovered that the spirit energy in the clean bottle was rapidly depleting. Within a short while, nearly a quarter of its spirit energy had been used and this process was still continuing. Being greatly alarmed, Yang Chen hastily controlled the clean bottle to crazily absorb spirit energy and simultaneously his spiritual awareness entered within the clean bottle to investigate the matter in detail, which had caused this unexpected anomaly. Once the spiritual awareness entered within the clean bottle, it experienced a huge resistance by the spirit energy. Yang Chen's spiritual awareness was unable to move forwards. Moreover, this enormous resistance seemed to be coming from the place where he had put his bright ray sword and blood phantom vine sword. That should be his spirit Peryazi's location. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 232 Arousal of Bloodlines complete. Before he fed the blood of Heavenly Roar dog to his Heavenly Roar last time, he had already completed the master pet bonding contract with his spirit pet and the spell had already began to take effect within his body and Heavenly Roar's body. This master pet bonding contract couldn't be altered by even the Dragon King, let alone the Heavenly Roar who was just Yazi. During the previous time, Yang Chen had fed the complete remaining blood essence of Heavenly Roar dog to him. After continuously feeding it little by little many times, its body had adapted to the blood essence, and his body had already began to transform into that of a dragon. After feeding it the blood essence this time, the final result was about to appear. Whether the bloodline of Yazi had been completely aroused or whether only a part of it had been aroused, it would be seen after Heavenly Roar woke up. The abnormal change in the spirit energy as well as the main location where it was happening being the blood cocoon of the Heavenly Roar, there was no question about it. Certainly, the final transformation process had been completed. But Yang Chen also hadn't expected that such enormous amount of spirit energy would be required to arouse the bloodline in Heavenly Roar. Within another moment, the amount of spirit energy remaining within the clean bottle went down to half. The spirit energy was being used up more quickly than the intake. Yang Chen was greatly alarmed and immediately found the mouth of a spirit vein and placed the clean bottle there. The clean bottle, after being controlled by Yang Chen, began to absorb spirit energy madly from the spirit vein. After Yang Chen had refined the clean bottle last time, he could control it even more easily. Naturally, it was just his good luck that this cave had abundant spirit veins, otherwise Yang Chen also didn't know where would he supply spirit energy to his own medicine garden. With the clean bottle absorbing spirit energy crazily, the remaining amount of blue liquid which signified the spirit energy within the clean bottle began to slowly rise. This was after all the residents of a large sect, so spirit energy was plentiful even far more compared to Pure Yang Palace. Naturally this place will absolutely meet the needs of medicine garden. Yang Chen continued to maintain the extravagant use of spirit energy for full 1 day and 1 night. Enormous amounts of spirit energy was concentrated at the location of Heavenly Roar and was being used up rapidly. Moreover, Yang Chen's spiritual awareness was still unable to penetrate the resistance of spirit energy, so he didn't have any idea what was going on inside. To prevent the Heavenly Roar from giving up halfway and awakening because of lack of spirit energy, Yang Chen put his full attention to control the clean bottle to absorb spirit energy. As long as the amount of spirit energy in the clean bottle dropped below 90%, Yang Chen controlled it to quickly absorb it to the limit. Who knows whether this kind of transformation which had just began would require how much spirit energy. Yang Chen was just being cautious here. After 1 day and 1 night had passed, the speed of absorption of spirit energy was again increased by the blood cocoon. If Yang Chen had been controlling to maintain the spirit energy of the clean bottle above 90% at all times, then maybe the supply of spirit energy would have been suddenly broken. This instant, the spirit energy was again used up ferociously, depleting nearly 80% of the total spirit energy of the clean bottle. Yang Chen was greatly alarmed and used his frightening control to absorb spirit energy rapidly and replenish the supply. The bottom of the clean bottle's blue liquid could be vaguely seen at this point. Yang Chen used his full concentration to make sure that the supply isn't broken. Fortunately, this kind of sudden depletion of spirit energy happened only once in a while, moreover wouldn't continue unceasingly. After facing the situation, Yang Chen broke out in cold sweat. He again controlled the medicine garden to increase the absorption speed. This kind of situation would happen once every hour. After understanding the pattern, Yang Chen also dealt with it carefully. Finally he continued to maintain the spirit energy of the clean bottle filled to the limit. As long as some of the spirit energy inside would be depleted, it would be immediately replenished. Yang Chen even used the Qingqiong Mountain Caves controls to guarantee that supply of the spirit energy is adequate. He even shifted the spirit veins other regions to come here. The amount of spirit energy supplied with the convergence of these several spirit veins would make anyone's eyes go green with jealousy. However, the longer this situation continued, the happier Yang Chen became. The more the amount of spirit energy was absorbed would mean more spirit energy would be required to arouse Yazi's bloodlines, which would mean the more percentage of Yazi's bloodlines aroused. The thought of Yazi's bloodlines being aroused completely brought a smile to Yang Chen's face in front of this nightmare. Feeling this, although controlling the clean bottle to absorb spirit power was tedious and he couldn't distract for a single moment, but Yang Chen was gladly enduring all the hardships, wishing that this day would last longer. It was already the day he had decided with Gao Yu and Gongsun Ling. Shi Kui and Xie Sha had already come over. Not finding Yang Chen at his usual location, the 4 people quickly searched for him. But when they found Yang Chen, he hinted to them to stay quiet. Meanwhile, seeing the spirit veins of all 5 attributes converging near him, they were all shocked. Yang Chen wanted them to wait. No one protested against it, and finding the abundant spirit power here, all of them sat down in Yang Chen's surroundings and began to cultivate. However, even the spirit power used up by these 4 people, including 2 Yuaning stage demon beasts, also couldn't compare to the spirit power absorbed by the clean bottle in the time it takes for an incense to burn. The region which he couldn't probe with his spirit power was still quite large. Yang Chen was somewhat anxious, thinking about whether his Bright Ray Sword and Blood Phantom Vine Sword would get damaged. The Bright Ray Sword was his master's precious gift for him. Yang Chen would rather have the Blood Phantom Vine Sword get damaged than some accident happening to the Bright Ray Sword. Fortunately, Heavenly Roar was more fond of higher grade flying swords, and the Blood Phantom Vine Sword was of higher grade than the Bright Ray Sword. This fact was undisputable. Yang Chen only hoped that during the process of arousing Yazi's bloodline, this fact wouldn't change. Otherwise Yang Chen really didn't know how would he face his master after losing the Bright Ray Sword. After 1 month, the blood cocoon finally stopped the process of absorbing spirit power. Yang Chen's spiritual awareness was finally able to enter that region, however he could only probe the blood cocoon from the outside. He was still unable to uncover the situation inside. Fortunately, both the Bright Ray Sword and Blood Phantom Vine Sword weren't damaged. Not only that, these two swords had even undergone some sort of transformation. Apparently after being washed by a large amount of spirit energy, even the minutest impurities they had were also removed. Yang Chen was even doubtful whether Heavenly Roar had used these two swords as a medium to absorb the crazy amount of spirit power. The situation inside the blood cocoon was still unknown, but it also seemed to have undergone some sort of transformation. Initially it was somewhat soft, but presently it seemed to have become hard. There were even the sounds of some indistinct activities inside coming through, but they weren't very clear. These activities seemed to continue for approximately 1 month before the blood cocoon finally calmed down. Immediately following this, suddenly a crack appeared on the thick cocoon crust. During this time, everyone, including Yang Chen, were sitting in their positions. Yang Chen didn't dare to relax in monitoring the cocoon and discovered this transformation which startled him again. Finally, Heavenly Roar had aroused his bloodline and his true body would now come out. The only question was whether this time his body would have completely transformed into that of Yazi or not. When the blood cocoon finally split open, a small head appeared from inside. The face and head were still the same. Soon, its long body walked out of blood cocoon, wiggling constantly, floating in the air in the medicine garden. When Yang Chen's spiritual awareness probed it once, his pupils shrank immediately. Yazi, head of a dog and body of a dragon, sure enough it was so. That long body clearly was the body of a dragon. Apart from the beautiful scales, its body also had 4 dragon paws, on each dragon paw there were 5 claws. Obviously the Yazi bloodline had been thoroughly aroused. The instant he looked this body which had completely transformed into that of a dragon, Yang Chen understood where the large volumes of spirit power had gone. Just the transformation of Heavenly Roar's original body to the current situation would require astonishing amounts of spirit power. As soon as Heavenly Roar came out of the blood cocoon, it impatiently started eating the cocoon crust. Soon after, its body again wrapped around the Bright Ray Sword and the Blood Phantom Vine Sword again entered its mouth, completely satisfying it. Yang Chen's first thoughts were that now it would rest, but suddenly, Heavenly Roar seemed to have sensed something and rushed towards a direction after releasing the Bright Ray Sword and putting down the Blood Phantom Vine Sword. Within a few breaths, it had already rushed towards the medicine garden. Although it was unable to enter because of the medicine garden, but it looked extremely anxious with its long body twisting and tangling continuously. With one probe of his spiritual awareness, Yang Chen immediately discovered that on the outer side of the medicine garden, in this direction, was where Shikui and Xia sat. Yang Chen's sudden movements had surprised everyone who looked at him doubtfully. "What did you both collect over there?" Yang Chen suddenly asked, without showing any politeness or any respect shown towards seniors of sect by a junior. "Nothing." Shikui and Xia replied almost at the same time. They simply didn't mind his attitude. Soon after they looked at each other and Shikui opened his mouth. "We fought many battles with several demon beasts over there, they were extremely envious that we can transform into humans. Wait until the time we fight again, we will ask Old Man Gi to teach them a lesson once. Maybe then we will get some high-level members for Eccentric Hall." All Yuning stage demon beasts are very intelligent, this fact was undoubtable. Shikui and Xia also knew their position within the sect presently, and because of being always looked down upon, they wanted to pull in some more comrades to increase their number. Probably, with Shikui and Xia using themselves as examples and again adding in the benefit of appearance transformation secrets, maybe the Pure Yang Palace would again gain a few more Yuning stage demon beasts. However, this was a discussion for later. Presently Yang Chen was interested in knowing the object they obtained. Xia had already opened his Qianqin pouch and emptied it. A pile of objects fell down from it. In one glance, he surprisingly found more than 10 pieces of high-grade puppets. These weren't live puppets like Mo Qiang. Rather, they were refined using various materials and used either spirit stones or spirit assembling spells to provide energy. Could it be that Heavenly Roar wanted these pieces? Yang Chen neared two large pieces, but heavenly roar inside the clean bottle was still constantly wandering, seemingly it had no interest in these. Presently, it wasn't suitable to bring heavenly roar in front of everyone. Yang Chen also didn't have any other option other than choosing in its place. So he could only search through the pile one item at a time. There were all sorts of bones, skin, and teeth from the skeletons of the Yuning stage demon beasts preserved from countless years ago, which would make anyone's eyes go green with jealousy. But for Yang Chen and Heavenly Roar, who showed no interest, they were just like a pile of garbage. However, Gao Yu and Gongsun Ling seemed to have been obsessed with these things. Both of them quickly rushed forwards and began to examine all these bones from corpse of demon beast. While looking through this pile, Heavenly Roar suddenly stopped moving when Yang Chen held a piece of a flying sword. He seemed to be waiting anxiously for Yang Chen to throw the piece inside. After confirming that Heavenly Roar wanted flying sword pieces, Yang Chen didn't say anything and began to crazily search for pieces of flying sword. These several hundred similar pieces, which Shikui and Xie had collected from some place where the original sect had suffered a mishap, were casually thrown in the medicine garden by Yang Chen. However, he collected the remaining ones. Then he began to analyze one of the pieces carefully. Yang Chen's first impression was that it had been manufactured using some ancient refining technique which had died out countless years out. Soon, his spiritual awareness wrapped on all the pieces and the magnified picture of this piece appeared within the spiritual sea. The refining was pretty good according to that era's standard, but presently according Yang Chen's opinion, there were still many regions which needed improvement. Development was the necessity of time. The refining techniques have also been improving constantly. Since he couldn't see what was so unique about these sword pieces that made Heavenly Roar go crazy, Yang Chen could only collect these pieces. However, his spiritual awareness entered the medicine garden to check on Heavenly Roar's movements. Just one glance immediately stunned Yang Chen. At this moment, Heavenly Roar's body was wrapped around the bright ray sword and blood phantom vine sword, but he wasn't biting any of the pieces. All the pieces thrown to him were lying in front of him at this moment. Following which, Heavenly Roar did something, the result of which made Yang Chen unable to believe his eyes. As if taking a deep breath, Heavenly Roar deeply inhaled on the piece of flying sword and immediately a hazy mist appeared around the piece of flying sword. The hazy white mist left the flying sword piece and entered Heavenly Roar's nostrils. After absorbing this, Heavenly Roar seemed to be content. Holding the two swords close to him, it closed its eyes and began to rest. That satisfactory expression on its face was similar to someone who had gone to bed after eating a delicious meal. Yang Chen, who had seen this complete act, was shaken to the core. That hazy mist which rose from the flying sword must be the spirit which had been formed. Flying sword had undergone refining countless times. Perhaps this was an intelligent spirit, but this kind of tool spirit really did exist. Even some high-grade magic weapons, all would have a constituent spirit sealed within like the pill spirit of heaven seizing pill. That hazy mist must be the unfinished tool spirit. Yang Chen devoured tool spirits, but Yang Chen had never known that even these pieces of magic weapons also have incomplete tool spirit within them, which can also be devoured. Even Yang Chen was doubtful that this was the only path for Yazi to mature. There aren't magic weapons which have tool spirit, but the flying swords which had developed incomplete tool spirits after undergoing countless refinings were countless, so many that they even became a cause of distress for the masters of these magic weapons. There were many things which Heavenly Roar could pleasure himself with. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 233 Another Challenge. The smile on Yang Chen's face wasn't hidden from everyone. All of them stopped what they were doing and looked at Yang Chen. Senior apprentice Sister Gongsun Ling even asked immediately. Something good happened. You seem pretty excited. I discovered something good, however, it is of no use to you guys for the time being. Yang Chen didn't give a clear explanation, but it was not to the point where he didn't even say a word. He only gave them a general idea and then smiled without saying anything. Since they couldn't use it right now, everyone completely lost interest. One could not be overly ambitious in cultivation. Taking firm steps one by one was the only genuine path. Even if they currently obtained something at the level of the immortal world, it wouldn't be of any use to them. Take your belongings, we return to the sect now. Seeing that everyone was ready to go, Yang Chen didn't stay here for long. With one wave of his hand, everyone quickly collected their things and followed after him to return back to the main hall. Walking out was much easier compared to entering. In any case, this cave dwelling was under Yang Chen's complete control. With only some simple tricks, they easily exited the cave dwelling. The vast ocean was still there like before with the empty island devoid of any signs of human existence. When they were sitting on Yang Chen's flying shuttle, Yang Chen marked the location for Master and Senior Apprentice Sister. As the controls of this place were in his hands, he had to teach them ways of entering and exiting so that they could come here freely. This was a good place to gain battle experience, with the only flaw being that the location was too far. If he could completely collect it and place it at some other location, then it would certainly attract the envy of many sects. For the time being, this matter must not be told to the sect. Bao Yu first gave a reminder to everyone. The sect had just witnessed great upheaval. If we provided something like this again, then people would certainly think of malicious ideas. The heart of a person could not be easily understood, all of them were clear about this fact, so they all nodded their heads in agreement. Yang Chen also didn't say much, this was a conclusion acceptable to him for this matter. After traveling for 3 months, everyone returned back to the Myking Mountain. In the 2 years they weren't here, the Myking Mountain had undergone a great transformation. Using the opportunity of rebuilding the destroyed sect area, the palace master and a few other elders designed a new sect area for the Puryang Palace. Since they had become majestic compared to before, even the distribution of the underground veins were considered, including the underground vein of second Fierce Yang Courtyard. Compared to before, the present Puryang Palace had grown by almost 3 times. A huge building spanning over a perimeter of 200 miles was built within the sect area, this was the second Fierce Yang Courtyard. If not for the immense grandeur of Main Palace Hall, Yang Chen and others wouldn't necessarily be able to find its location. Let alone mention other things, even the temperament of Palace Master had undergone great changes. During the 2 years' time, they had tightened their grasp on the 100,000 mountains. The huge earnings from the 100,000 mountains had given him the confidence to hold the ambition of fighting for supremacy with other sects. Although they knew that the earnings from 100,000 mountains would be astonishing, no one had expected that the profits would be so enormous. The earnings of just the first year when they had gained complete control were enough to easily support the Puryang Palace for more than 10 years. The profits of second year doubled. This was only a portion of the total earnings after dividing between Green Jade Immortal Islands, Clear Sky Sect and Beast Taming Sect, so the wealth accumulated by those few experts of the backstage organization in the past years could be clearly imagined. Unfortunately, it was reported that those few people had spent the enormous wealth to buy the highest quality pills and elixirs to attack the boundary of their current realm. Even then, the 4 sects had made a killing just from the spoils of war. The 4 sects were already pleased beyond expectation with this outcome and started paying more attention to the 100,000 mountains. Furthermore, after the 4 sects had established the rule that there won't be any killing and robbing in the 100,000 mountains, even more cultivators of the devil and demon path flocked over, thus increasing the earnings even more. After becoming the palace master who had ushered the Puryang Palace into a new era, the palace master naturally had to appear more majestic. The backs of the few other elders also similarly straightened. Brilliance shone on their faces since their situation had changed compared to before, when the sect was tediously struggling at the edge of second-rate sects. Not to mention the upper echelons, even the ordinary disciples would proudly announce the name of Puryang Palace when adventuring outside, which gained more face for the sect. Even the number of new recruits in the previous 2 years had grown by many folds. Seeing everything moving in a better direction, Yang Chen was pleased. But when he visited the palace master to pay his respects, he was left complaining when he came outside. In the previous 2 years, when Yang Chen's group went to adventure outside, the palace master and great master Wang Yong had been anxious to death without any news of them. Fortunately, they had returned back quickly, otherwise, maybe the palace master would have offered a bounty to find Yang Chen. Disciple requests palace master to forgive disciple for his impoliteness. Yang Chen had to show his respect in front of the care and concern shown by palace master, only then did he begin to explain. If the sect becomes so protective of this disciple, then it wouldn't have any genuine benefits towards disciple. The seedlings grown within a greenhouse without experiencing many things couldn't compare to the trees growing in wilderness. Everyone understood this principle, but when it came to the sect's most important disciple, all of them seemed to have a tacit understanding to forget this fact. In Yang Chen's opinion, the sect should never been so protective of him. After pondering for a short moment, palace master finally nodded his head. Which sect doesn't want a talented disciple, and they shouldn't make him useless by being overprotective. With palace master's approval, other elders were easier to convince, even great master Wang Yang couldn't say anything. With this, Yang Chen finally got the permission to adventure outside again. Yang Chen had 2 motives of returning to sect this time. The first was to allow the people of the sect to feel relieved, and the second was to fight for the opportunity to adventure outside. Actually, Yang Chen had never experienced the issue of security before, let alone mention the domed palace hall's protection. He also had Mo Qian and her disciples. Furthermore, with 2 other Yuning experts, he would never face any problems. Not to mention his ultimate trump card, the Blood River. He had decided to use this trick only at the most critical and desperate moment. Adventuring outside is good. When you go out this time, take that girl from the Clear Sky sect with you so the Clear Sky sect doesn't start complaining again. Although the palace master had nodded his head, he still reminded Yang Chen about the matter regarding Sun Qingxu before he left. Presently, Yang Chen dreaded to hear about this matter. Last time when this matter was raised, his master Gao Yu had surprisingly started playing matchmaker between him and Gongsun Ling. After hearing Palace Master's reminder, he hastily agreed and rushed outside without daring to turn back his head. Although he had just returned back, Yang Chen wasn't planning on staying in the sect for long as the bloodline in Heavenly Roar had been completely aroused. Yang Chen was growing impatient and wanted to take him to the Dragon King's palace in the East Side Ocean and check whether Yazi's bloodline would help him opening some of the barriers. After gaining battle experience for 2 years, they had returned at the perfect time to digest that battle experience and peacefully cultivate. All of them returned to their residences and began to cultivate. Yang Chen didn't have the intention of taking anyone along. The palace of Dragon King was of great importance to him and he didn't plan to let anyone know about that legendary place. If his master and them wanted to gain more experience, he had told them about the method of entering and exiting so they could go there whenever they wanted without the need of him to bring them along. In any case, Yang Chen had only remained in one of the palace halls, cultivating and reading jade slips as there wasn't any need for him to go and battle with demon beasts. Naturally, Yang Chen didn't stop cultivating, he still insisted on cultivating a complete cycle once a day. However, others still thought that cultivating one full cycle per day was quite lazy. But everyone also knew that Yang Chen was a pill concocting master, so no one urged him to be more diligent in cultivation. When he returned to the sect this time, the sect had prepared a small surprise for him. During the 2 years he had been away, the sect had collected more than 200 flames and all of them were different from the ones he had absorbed previously. This time, there weren't only first and second grade flames, there were also 2 flames that were third grade. Someone even wanted to use a 4th grade flame to exchange for a heart-questioning pill, however, this price was clearly too low, so the palace master directly refused. A heart-questioning pill, even if it could be exchanged, would require at least a 5th grade flame like the real sun fire or real moon fire, a 4th grade flame wasn't even worth counting. Yang Chen wasn't polite and directly collected all the flames. These were his rewards for his service to sect, so he didn't feel uncomfortable collecting them. Naturally, there was no one among the elders who had any problem. When he took his leave from his master, he only told her that he was going out to find some secret place to absorb the flames. Gao Yu thought that Yang Chen wouldn't want the sect to worry about such a trifling matters and so didn't obstruct him. She knew Yang Chen was extremely strong and after cultivating the Huangjin strongman body refining technique, his strength had been boosted greatly, so there wasn't any need to worry about his safety. But she still warned him repeatedly to be cautious. Speaking of Huangjin body refining technique, when Yang Chen returned back to the sect with his body full of muscles, even the palace master and the elders were surprised. Although the body becoming full of muscles wasn't any shocking matter, only one thought flickered within everyone's mind, that Yang Chen wanted to use this figure to chase away Zhanxian and Sun Qingxu. But when all was said and done, this was just a far-fetched guess. However, no one could comprehend what Yang Chen was thinking. Regardless of whether it was Fairy Shy of Green Jade Immortal Islands or Sun Qingxu of Clear Sky Sect, each had greater background than the other, each was more beautiful than the other, each was more talented in cultivation than the other. But even such a sweet deal was insufficient for him. When he leaving his master's place, she gave him another set of clothes. She and Gongsun Ling had stitched these clothes while waiting for Yang Chen. The demon beasts used to sew the previous set of clothes were too low grade and weren't worthy of being refined properly. This time, Gao Yu had rummaged through Shikui and Xiesha's spoils of war to find the skin and furs of some Yuning stage demon beast and used them to properly refine some good clothes. When Yang Chen came out of Puryang Palace, he didn't directly leave on his flying shuttle, rather, he first went to the market street at the Miking Mountain to check up on Shang Yuanfeng. Shang Yuanfeng was completely infatuated with business, but his cultivation had increased again compared to the last time when Yang Chen saw him. This caused Yang Chen to sigh in admiration, Shang Yuanfeng sure was completely suitable for business. Scarface had returned with some good things last time he returned, due to which Shang Yuanfeng's business had soared like rising water and wind. Seeing that everything was on the right track, Yang Chen was also happy. After a brief conversation with Shang Yuanfeng, Yang Chen walked out of the market and used his flying sword to fly towards the East Sea. Yang Chen didn't want to cause uproar in the market street and thus hadn't used his flying shuttle. But soon, a bitter smile made its way on his face. In the direction Yang Chen was flying, a group of people had suddenly appeared. Most of them were at the foundation stage, with at least 2 being at Jidan stage. All of them had a scholarly aura and seemed quite refined. With just one look, anyone could make out that they were all chosens and seemed to know that he was going in this direction and had thus blocked his path. Yang Chen nimbly controlled his flying sword and slowly descended to the ground. After collecting his flying sword, he looked at the group of people who had surrounded him and calmly asked. "Fellow Taoists, how can myself help you?" A person jumped out from the group of people and fixed his gaze on Yang Chen as if trying to confirm something. Suddenly, he greeted Yang Chen and asked. "That fellow Taoist be Yang Chen of Pure Yang Palace?" "That is myself." Since the opponent had greeted him properly, Yang Chen also wouldn't be rude. He knew why the opponent couldn't confirm without asking. His appearance had changed greatly, so no one would dare to believe that he was Yang Chen. "Myself, XXX, issue a challenge towards fellow Taoist Yang. Myself, Ziz, invite fellow Taoist Yang to compare pointers." Once they were certain of Yang Chen's identity, the group suddenly started to talk together, leaving Yang Chen stunned. He had indeed heard correctly, these people had come to issue a challenge and pit themselves against him. Yang Chen immediately frowned. So many people issuing challenge to him, what's the reason? Furthermore, he wasn't very excited towards these kind of challenges, so he could only restrain his temper for the time being and cupped his hands before asking. "What kind of misunderstanding is there between fellow Taoists and this Yang?" "No misunderstanding," said that youngster who had jumped out earlier. After coming the identity of Yang Chen, his attitude had completely transformed. "Very shy certainly couldn't agree to be your Tao companion, myself issue a challenge to you. If you lose, then you absolutely mustn't bother Fairy Shy from this moment forth." Woo, it was the admirers of Shy Zhanxian again. Yang Chen was even more annoyed. He didn't say much, only yelled loudly. "Myself isn't skilled enough to compare pointers with fellow Taoists, so myself admits defeat." When the group of chosens heard Yang Chen's words, they were instantly astonished. Initially, they had planned to confront Yang Chen head-on and beat him so that he loses all face, but they had never expected that Yang Chen surprisingly would admit defeat. What could they do now? You are Fairy Shy, who is clear as ice and jade, had surprisingly been swindled by a gutless person like you. Immediately, someone started shouting loudly. "How can you admit defeat without battling? My skills are insufficient, can't I just admit defeat?" Yang Chen faintly smiled towards these elites who were trying to provoke him and stepped forward, wanting to leave. "Since myself has already admitted defeat, myself requests everyone to clear the path." "And do." The youngster who had jumped out in the beginning yelled loudly. "I had long ago heard that Pure Yang Palace's Yang Chen doesn't agree to challenges. Myself today has finally experienced this personally. Since this is the case, then Yang Chen, I issue a life and death challenge towards you. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more." Chapter 234. No one can save a person who is courting death. Deathmatch. Upon hearing those words, the surrounding cultivators looked at their companion with astonished expressions, thinking they had misheard. "This life and death I've challenged you to will settle who is most suitable for Fairy Shy." With the gazes of the surrounding cultivators on him, that companion stood tall and puffed up his chest, as if showing that he wasn't afraid of dying. "There are no grievances or hatred between us. Why must you declare a deathmatch?" Yang Chen shook his head. "Forgive me, but I don't have time for this." The other party acted as if blood had rushed into his head to the point where he even issued a life and death duel. Apparently, he had heard about Yang Chen's previous life and death duels. Yang Chen currently wasn't bored enough to battle with someone he didn't know. Furthermore, the challenge was over the affection of a woman, making this demand even more ridiculous. "No grievance or hatred." The opponent suddenly sneered. "My senior apprentice brother entered the Miking Mountain a few years ago to issue a deathmatch against you. Even now, his whereabouts are unknown. Did you kill him? In this world, dying isn't something exceptional, and not everything happens because of this Yang." Yang Chen mocked him. "A few years ago, my sect was destroyed and countless corpses were buried at that time. If you want to blame someone, blame those people who destroyed my sect." Yang Chen's declaration left the person who had taken the initiative speechless. The destruction of the Pure Yang Palace wasn't a secret. When people investigating the incident had arrived at scene, they could clearly see that not even the mountain protecting spell had been able to the sect from that sort of catastrophe, so people dying wasn't anything exceptional. Maybe his senior apprentice brother had been killed during that disaster. Regardless, the Pure Yang Palace had long ago publicly proclaimed that 100,000 mountains had been behind the attack. Furthermore, the Pure Yang Palace had also aligned with a few big sects and launched a retaliatory attack, exterminating the backstage power of the 100,000 mountains. Thus, this person forcefully insisting that his senior's death had some relation to Yang Chen wasn't so conclusive. But if a person goes insane and keeps courting death, then even heavens can't save them. When that person heard Yang Chen's words, he paused for 2 breaths and then suddenly yelled. If not for you, why would my senior apprentice brother have come here? This Yang Chen hadn't invited anyone. Yang Chen sneered. He had already begun to get impatient with dealing with these people. If anyone doesn't have anything else to say, then this Yang must excuse himself. The group of people looked at each other in dismay. Initially, they had intended to issue a challenge to Yang Chen and beat him to make him leave Fairy Shy. Nevertheless, they hadn't anticipated that this person himself would take the initiative to admit defeat. Their mission had been completely unsuccessful. Even though they heard Yang Chen admit defeat, no one felt any sense of victory. The sensation of being looked down upon by Yang Chen had instead made these people, who were usually regarding as outstanding, feel humiliated and burning with rage. This kind of defeat, is it even regarded as defeat? You still have to pay for my senior apprentice brother's life. The person who had taken the initiative to speak earlier couldn't control his hatred any longer. He rushed towards Yang Chen while yelling loudly. His friend standing by his side had been thinking of how to dissuade him from acting recklessly, but it was already too late. Just a moment ago, Yang Chen had already said that this matter didn't have anything to do with him. Regardless, if Yang Chen's accuser absolutely wanted to attach this matter with Yang Chen, then that was an unwise decision. Who didn't know that Yang Chen's name was presently listed among the peak pill concocting masters? If they had only beaten Yang Chen while comparing notes, no one would have said anything, as he was a pill concocting master, so him being inferior in cultivation would have been considered as normal. Nevertheless, if he absolutely insisted on fighting a deathmatch with Yang Chen, then that decision was a completely foolish choice. On the one hand, even if he won, he might not necessarily be able to obtain Fairy Shy. Instead, he would likely make enemies out of countless experts who desired pills from Yang Chen. If he lost, then the only outcome waiting for him was death. And it is not related to me. Yang Chen simply didn't pay any attention to his opponent's yell. He simply just turned around and left. This person couldn't be reasoned with. Just as that person's friend let out a deep breath, he discovered, to his surprise, that his friend had raised his flying sword and silently stabbed towards Yang Chen, who had already turned his back. No one among the group dared to utter a sound. Apparently, they had also been stupefied by this action of their fellow companion. Sneak attack, this was a sneak attack. Weren't we going to defeat Yang Chen fair and square? Just at the instant when his flying sword was going to enter Yang Chen's back, Yang Chen's figure suddenly moved. His figure, which had its back facing towards everyone, with a flash, turned to face everyone. His hand moved, shua, and he tried to swiftly grab the incoming flying sword. Grabbing a flying sword with one hand. The eyes of the entire group of people became wide open. How is this possible? But the circumstances in front of them simply made them unable to believe their own eyes. Their fellow companion's flying sword, flickering with light, had been pinched between two fingers by Yang Chen. The sword continued to tremble incessantly between Yang Chen's two fingers, but it was unable to break free. A struggling expression appeared on their companion's face, with beads of sweat appearing on his forehead. It was simply one strike and couldn't even be regarded as deathmatch, so how can there be beads of sweat appearing on their companion's forehead? How is this possible? But this was exactly what was happening in front of them right now. The most astonishing thing was that Yang Chen's hands were still empty. If he had some kind of glove or even a cover over his fingers, then also everyone could understand. Then it would have been just a magic weapon against a magic weapon. Maybe the difference between the magic weapons was just so vast. But surprisingly, Yang Chen had grabbed their companion's flying sword with bare hands. Was this still something a human could accomplish? If Yang Chen had been a Yuning stage or higher level expert, then it wouldn't have been so astonishing, since the large disparity between their cultivation base was enough to make up for the magic weapon. But Yang Chen clearly was at the foundation stage, the same as them. But he still had grabbed their companion's flying sword with a bare hand, and their companion had been completely incapable of resisting. Could it be that this was Yang Chen's true strength? While everyone kept guessing, Yang Chen had already made his next move. Since the other party had launched a sneak attack and with the intent of taking his life, even if Yang Chen's temperament was even more forgiving, it would still have been impossible to not feel enraged towards these people. The same time when he grabbed the flying sword, Yang Chen's expressions also became cold. He ruthlessly gazed at the master of the flying sword and suddenly said in loud voice. For every grievance someone is responsible, for every debt there is a debtor. We didn't have any previous grievance or hatred, but today you surprisingly tried to take my life, so you must not blame me in the afterlife. Before his words had fallen on the ground, Yang Chen's hand applied force, and under the shocked gazes of the group of people, the flying sword grabbed within his hand was forcibly broken down into two by his fingers. What was this? The group of people were left speechless by this act which occurred in front of their eyes. Using a flying sword to break another flying sword, this was something which everyone could accept because there are differences between the quality of flying swords. Even using another magic weapon to break a flying sword also could be accepted, as some magic weapons were comparatively harder than others. But using fingers to pinch the flying sword like pinching a small insect and easily breaking it into two halves, what was this? Yang Chen's fingers, could they be high-grade magic weapons? However, Yang Chen didn't intend to provide another opportunity to the master of the flying sword. He stretched his one hand, gripped Heavenly Roar's body within the medicine garden, and simultaneously, the bright ray sword under Yang Chen's control flew into its mouth. Heavenly Roar seemed to have understood what Yang Chen was trying to do and obediently served Yang Chen. When the sword hilt of bright ray sword entered Heavenly Roar's mouth, its body suddenly began to transform. The long dragon-like body began to coil around, twisting around Yang Chen's hand, and immediately transformed into a golden-colored sword hilt and opened its large mouth to swallow the bright ray sword. However, once it closed its mouth, the sharp edge of the bright ray sword extended out of Heavenly Roar's mouth. Heavenly Roar's head also transformed into a sinister demon's head. Suddenly a thin layer of light which was invisible through naked eye appeared on the sword edge of bright ray sword. If Yang Chen hadn't been the master of bright ray sword and Heavenly Roar, he basically would have been unable to sense this minor transformation. Accompanying the melodious sound of sword being taken out, Yang Chen's bright ray sword appeared in front of everyone. However, the appearance of the bright ray sword didn't astonish anyone, since all of them hadn't sobered up from the shock of Yang Chen, stopping their attack with 3 fingers. Others didn't know that these people had been in contact with each other for the past few days, hoping to join hands and cause trouble for Yang Chen, and would compare notes with each other every day to prepare for today. Thus they were clear about the quality of this person's flying sword. Even if it may be inferior to their flying sword, but it couldn't be called weak by any means. However, it was still easily broken by Yang Chen. This also implied that even if they all unsheathed their flying sword, the results would still be the same. Yang Chen wouldn't even need to use his flying sword, just the force of his fleshly body will be sufficient to beat them all. However, when the sword appeared in Yang Chen's hand, they all noticed the peculiarity of Yang Chen's offense. He surprisingly was holding it in his hands. Could Yang Chen be unable to control flying swords? Once this thought entered their mind, immediately some of them were tempted, especially the friend of the person who had attacked Yang Chen. Since they had already attacked and Yang Chen had also broken his friend's flying sword, there was no option other than to battle. Why not use this opportunity to surround and kill Yang Chen? This would also fulfill everyone's desire, providing them a chance to chase after Fairy Shy. 2 flying swords silently appeared behind Yang Chen and fiercely rushed to chop down Yang Chen. The people in front of Yang Chen could see that someone had moved to attack him, but no one said anything. Yang Chen being killed also meant that they would have gained the chance to get close to Fairy Shy. However, Yang Chen just sneered. The bright ray sword in his hand moved once as if he had grown eyes behind his back and 2 pangs echoed. The 2 flying swords behind his back were easily broken down into 4 by him. But Heavenly Roar possessing his weapon, the flying swords used by these foundation stage cultivators were even easier to cut than tofu. Even before the edge of his blade had come in contact with opponent's flying sword, the portion of sharp energy already dispersed everywhere and cleaved the enemy's flying sword into 2 halves. These 2 flying swords were the destined flying swords of their respective masters. Once these 2 were destroyed, instantly the masters of the flying sword began to howl in grief. Yang Chen didn't pay any attention to it, his figure moved like lightning and quickly chopped down towards 3 people who attacked him. With one horizontal slash, the 3 of them transformed into 6 pieces. Blood filled the ground and their internal organs fell out creating a puddle. Yang Chen had already collected the 3 Qianqin pouches and returned to his original position by the time everyone realized what had happened. He had completed his attack within the time it takes for a spark to die out. No one could even respond. He killed fellow Taoist Wang. A shocked yell suddenly echoed from someone. That desperate and terrified voice apparently declared that this fellow Taoist Wang whom Yang Chen had killed wasn't an ordinary person. Almost everyone looked at the scene as if they were looking at a ghost. All of them began to edge backwards and move away from Yang Chen, as if Yang Chen was the personification from some kind of demon. The most unexpected this was that the 2 Zhedan experts among these people were still standing at the same place, looking at Yang Chen coldly, as if they were looking at their mortal enemy. "You dared to kill young master." One of the Zhedan experts squeezed these words while howling with grief. "Prepare to die." Another Zhedan expert hadn't said anything, rather directly attacked. It needn't be asked, these certainly were the bodyguards of some young master. However, they hadn't expected that Yang Chen will attack so rapidly that they wouldn't be able to stop him. At this moment, only by killing Yang Chen could they provide an explanation for young master's life. Their attacks hadn't affected the surroundings, but the omnipotent presence of Zhedan experts appeared. Those foundation stage fools by their side basically couldn't endure it and cried out in surprise. Then they began to flee in all directions. Everyone was aware that blood had entered the eyes of the two Jidan experts. They were unable to protect the young master, this crime was sufficient to send them on the path of death. Facing death's door, these two Jidan experts may not attack the lifelong friend of young master, but maybe they would take their anger out on them and maybe send them to accompany the young master. Furthermore, Yang Chen's next target probably will be them. So none of them dared to stay there for long and began to run in all directions. These people who didn't even know which direction they were rushing towards because of panic naturally didn't know what happened after they left. They had no idea that at the instant they began to escape, 5 veiled females suddenly surrounded the two Jidan experts. The 5 females had appeared silently, but their attack was extremely weird. Using the 5 female profound spell which they had used many times, they instantly covered the two Jidan experts within the spell. Bang, even more fierce Jidan pressure caused those escapees to run even faster, wishing that their parents had given them an extra limb. They didn't even dare to turn their head around, let alone speak of using spiritual awareness. If they used spiritual awareness to probe this terrifying scene, then apart from being devoured by backlash, there won't be any other result. The two Jidan stage bodyguards also lost all hopes. In one moment of carelessness, Yang Chen had killed their young master, and presently, the 5 females who had appeared suddenly also let them know that killing Yang Chen to avenge their young master was already an extravagant hope. Not to mention that it was still unknown whether they would be able to leave here alive. These two who were facing death's door had never expected this. Clearly, Yang Chen was just an ordinary disciple, even though he had shown great potential in the field of pill concocting, but still how can the Pure Yang Palace dispatch 5 Jidan stage experts to protect him? His security was even stricter compared to young Master Wang. However, it was already impossible for them to know the answer. After being captured under the 5 female profound spell, they could only resist for few moments before each of them was stabbed by 5 flying swords, and both of them died while looking at Yang Chen with resentful gaze. Pointless challenge, meaningless deaths, Yang Chen didn't know how to evaluate these people. However, until the day he settles Zhanxian's affair, these kind of events will continue to happen. Who asked Zhanxian to allow her name to shock the entire world, causing countless people to desire to be her Dao companion. What made Yang Chen most suspicious was the fact that he had barely shown himself and he was immediately found by these people. Yang Chen definitely wouldn't believe there was no conspiracy going on here, and these people who had no worries in their lives were simply waiting all the time for Yang Chen to appear at the Myking Mountain. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 235 Still being pursued. Myking Mountain Market wasn't restricted for outsiders or rogue cultivators. Someone keeping a constant watch over the market was ordinary. For this group of silk pants, who had no worries in their lives, a long wait for him there was certainly not ordinary. Someone had gathered them together using an excuse like challenging Yang Chen for fairy shy. Moreover, that person had also used a common topic to push all the hatred on Yang Chen. The first person was clearly incited by someone. Given the nature of these silk pants, face was the most important thing. After Yang Chen had conceded defeat, they had gained face, so at least most of them wouldn't think of attacking him. But that person not only argued with him, he even took the initiative to attack Yang Chen. Clearly he wanted to coerce everyone into attacking and had hoped that Yang Chen would be killed in the confusion, thus creating trouble for Pure Yang Palace. What he hadn't expected was that Yang Chen would break his attack using just 3 fingers, subduing most of the group. With no other way in sight, he could only use the other 2 people to attack, one of whom was some young master of the Wang family. The outcome, they were killed by Yang Chen's one strike, thus leading to the present situation. Regardless of whatever is said, Yang Chen had killed someone. Those people who escaped would certainly claim it publicly. Even if Yang Chen chased after them and killed as many as he could, someone would still spread the information about Yang Chen killing people. Regarding this, Yang Chen didn't care much. His only worry was that these people hiding behind the scenes might use this incident to bring harm to his master. Fortunately, Yang Chen wouldn't need to spend a long time on this time's trip. His trip this time was to the hidden treasury of the Palace of Dragons to check whether Heavenly Roar's dragon clan's bloodline could be used to remove some of the seals and obtain some treasures. Thus the flying shuttle, which he had received from there, had assisted Yang Chen many times. He had obtained that treasure after removing the simplest seal. It was obvious what grade of treasures he would receive after removing those difficult seals. Once he thought about those treasures, Yang Chen could barely control his heart. Yang Chen had also discovered that as his cultivation advanced, the speed of the flying shuttle also increased. When he was at the initial foundation stage, it clearly didn't have its present speed. When he reached the coast, Yang Chen submerged the flying shuttle into the ocean without revealing anything. Even if someone was chasing after him, Yang Chen was truly convinced that no one could match the flying shuttle's current speed within the ocean. The deep dark ocean bed was serene and dangerous, but with the high speed of the flying shuttle, Yang Chen simply didn't care. Those demon beasts who might chase after the flying shuttle didn't have the required formidable strength. Those who were sufficiently powerful couldn't catch up to the flying shuttle. Last time, Yang Chen had confirmed this. It required him around 10 days to reach the secret treasury of the Palace of Dragons. Yang Chen set the direction and coordinates properly and began to cultivate. Whether it was because of the sudden change in the surroundings after he entered the ocean, or whether it was because of the powerful hindrance provided by the ocean water, those people who wanted to chase after Yang Chen would have to pay a great price. Yang Chen suddenly felt as if someone was chasing him. How was it possible? Apart from daching stage experts, even Wang Yong himself wouldn't be able to chase Yang Chen if he couldn't sense Yang Chen's direction. Nevertheless, presently some formidable spiritual awareness was clearly tracking him. After realizing this, the first thing that Yang Chen did was to immediately examine his body and check for spiritual awareness imprint or something like that. After a proper inspection, he confirmed that this wasn't the case. Yang Chen became somewhat desperate. If the enemy had engraved some sort of spiritual awareness imprint on his body, then he could easily use the blood river within his consciousness sea to deal with him. Although presently, the immortal executing blade was being refined within the blood river, but to get rid of the imprint, Yang Chen didn't need to move the blood river. He only needed to throw the imprint within the blood river. Last time, Guan Yuing was tormented by Yang Chen using the same method while she chased after him to hunt him down, and a majestic Yuaning stage expert became a captive of a trifling foundation stage cultivator like Yang Chen. That was when Yang Chen didn't know any deadly tricks. If Yang Chen could sense the hostility, then the enemy would easily lose consciousness. If it wasn't on his body, then it was certainly on some object that he owned. Yang Chen began to thoroughly inspect all his treasures. The medicine garden and the domed large hall were both within his achievement ring. Yang Chen couldn't think of any expert within this mortal world whose spiritual awareness could penetrate the achievement ring to track him down. Moreover, the medicine garden was the treasure which was given utmost priority by Yang Chen and had been refined several times by him, but he had never discovered any spiritual awareness imprint. It was even more impossible for the imprint to be placed on the profound spirit furnace, as presently it was completely branded by Yang Chen as his own. Even if other people held the profound spirit furnace, they wouldn't be able to use it. If their control over fire wasn't as good as Yang Chen's, the only outcome from trying to use profound spirit furnace would be that they would be unable to control the countless flames and would then be turned into ashes by the profound spirit furnace. If someone had engraved the spiritual awareness imprint on profound spirit furnace, the only conclusion would be that his spiritual awareness would be burned completely by real sun fire, real moon fire, as well as Naming fire, and the enemy would turn into a vegetable like Mo Qiang. Moreover, the profound spirit furnace was also within the achievement ring, so it was impossible. Bright Ray Sword and Blood Phantom Vine Sword were both within the medicine garden together with Heavenly Roar. Their incomplete sword spirit had already been engulfed by Heavenly Roar. If the spiritual awareness imprint was on them, then it would have already become a good meal for Heavenly Roar. Although the flying shuttle was a possibility, but until now, Yang Chen had no method of refining the flying shuttle and could only engrave his spiritual awareness imprint. However, even to accomplish that, Yang Chen had to spend at least few months' time. It must be known that Yang Chen's spiritual awareness was extremely formidable and had reached mid-Yuaning stage. If others wanted to leave their spiritual awareness imprint on it, they would only be able to barely touch it. Until now, the flying shuttle was under Yang Chen's complete control, which clearly explained that the flying shuttle hadn't been forcefully imprinted by others. Apart from these treasures, which Yang Chen considered as his most precious, all the other ordinary items were placed within the Qianqin pouch refined by Wang Yong. After Yang Chen carried out a similar inspection on them, he quickly discovered a problem. There were a few Qianqin pouches within, which belonged to the few people whom Yang Chen had killed not long ago, which also included the Qianqin pouches of that young master and his 2 Jidan stage bodyguards. The tracking spiritual awareness was engraved on top of each of these. This wasn't strange, usually all the large sects would use the tracking spell formation so that they could find their disciples. This would act as a safety measures as well as was also a way to guard against the unexpected. So this sort of tracking imprint on the Qianqin pouches of that young master as well as his followers was absolutely normal. The only abnormality was that those few people whom he had killed at the start of that farce clearly didn't belong to the same sect. Unexpectedly, the tracking imprint on their Qianqin pouches was identical. This was a little bit weird. This only had one explanation. Those people, even including those who had fled the scene, were all guinea pigs who were delivered to Yang Chen to be killed so as to track Yang Chen's movements. If Yang Chen hadn't entered the ocean, thus forcing the opponent to increase the intensity of his inspection because of the resistance offered by several layers of ocean water, he wouldn't be able to discover the enemy's plans. Collecting the spoils of war after killing the enemy was common practice followed by everyone, and Yang Chen was no different. Perhaps, the enemy had made this plan based on this common practice and had even incited those youths by using the name of Zhanxian to cause trouble for Yang Chen. As long as Yang Chen killed a few of these people, he would certainly fall within this trap. Moreover, as long as Yang Chen killed someone, these people could publicly claim to attack Yang Chen out of hatred for killing their allies. But the opponent wouldn't have anticipated, even in their wildest dreams, that Yang Chen's spiritual awareness would surprisingly be so formidable and would be able to discover the traces of the imprint created by them, which even some Yuaning experts would be unable to sense. After discovering the enemy's tricks and discovering that it was all done by the same person, Yang Chen didn't impatiently remove the spiritual awareness imprints. There was a great difference between knowing that you had an enemy and knowing who it was. Yang Chen wasn't willing to destroy the little clues that he had found. He cautiously sent out his spiritual awareness thread and completely wrapped the spiritual awareness imprint on some Qianqin pouch, easily controlling to enter within his consciousness and placed it at the edge of Blood River. This spiritual awareness imprint could be thrown within the Blood River at any time. After verifying that there wasn't any other tracking imprints, Yang Chen used his spiritual awareness thread to strictly bind that spiritual awareness imprint so as to make it impossible for the enemy to track him using this spiritual awareness imprint. Following this, Yang Chen rummaged through the other Qianqin pouches and conveniently collected all the objects inside, placing them into his Qianqin pouch. Afterwards, he started throwing those Qianqin pouches towards formidable beasts which he had encountered. Within short 2 days' time, all of them were thrown to the sides of Demon's Beast of the Ocean. Convinced that the enemy had completely lost tracks of him, Yang Chen again continued with his search. Who knew what these formidable demon beasts, who had encountered him, would be feeling right now? After completing this trip to the Palace of Dragons, he would properly have his fun with these people. However, presently, Yang Chen didn't have any intention of dealing with these people. Yang Chen had aroused Heavenly Roar's dragon race bloodline with great difficulties, he was impatient to see what kind of treasures he could obtain using them. He finally reached the secret treasury of Palace of Dragons. That large unremarkable sea rock again opened up the entrance after Yang Chen completed manipulating a series of complex mechanisms and he was finally able to enter the secret treasury. Sure enough, Yang Chen's expectations weren't betrayed. Once they entered within the treasury, Heavenly Roar again began to wriggle crazily, wanting to be let out. Since there weren't any outsiders here, Yang Chen immediately released Heavenly Roar. At this moment, Heavenly Roar no longer resembled a small pup like before. He completely resembled Yazi with his dog head and dragon body. After the transformation to a dragon body, Heavenly Roar didn't walk on the ground and rather flew within the air. Heavenly Roar, who seemed to be extremely attracted towards something within the palace's treasury, continued to fly slowly but unwaveringly in the front. Yang Chen unhurriedly followed behind him, curiously looking towards the direction Heavenly Roar was flying. After flying for a good while, Heavenly Roar finally struggled to land on an enormous sea map. He seemed to have been exhausted after reaching the map and directly descended on some flickering location, which marked a spirit vein on the sea map and began to rest. At the same time, it turned its head towards Yang Chen, as if expecting something from him. Yang Chen thought for a moment and threw some pieces of magic weapons, which he had found at the Qingqiong cave, in front of Heavenly Roar. Heavenly Roar was certainly waiting for his reward. He opened his large mouth and took a deep breath with all his might. The shining mist again appeared on top of the few pieces and entered Heavenly Roar's mouth. Those pieces immediately lost their luster and transformed into ordinary rubble, losing all the evidence of being a magic weapon. Yang Chen didn't throw these pieces away and he collected them within his Qianqin pouch. These chunks were good raw materials, although these magic weapons had been broken and were now just raw materials that hadn't been ruined. After resting for a time it takes for half an incense to burn, Heavenly Roar again recovered his strength and began to fly. This time, he directly flew into the main hall. Following behind Heavenly Roar, Yang Chen also entered the main hall. Soon, Heavenly Roar rushed towards the dragon pearls on top of the throne kept at the center. Yang Chen was watching his silhouette, filled with expectations, hoping for some restrictions on the side of the throne to open up. Bang, Heavenly Roar, who was flying forward, directly knocked against an invisible barrier. The sound of a collision echoed and he fell down on the ground. Ah, Yang Chen exhaled out the air he had holding because of nervousness and sighed in his heart, shaking his head. Apparently, Heavenly Roar had the same problem as Yang Chen. Its cultivation wasn't sufficient and hence couldn't gain the approval, being unable to open the restrictions. Although Yang Chen was disappointed after realizing this, he didn't lose all hope. His cultivation base was indeed extremely inferior, being only at the trifling foundation stage. Thus, being unable to open the restrictions was normal. If he had truly been able to remove the restrictions, then the only thing could be said that the restrictions weren't powerful and there wasn't anything good behind them. Heavenly Roar constantly kept spiraling around that dragon pearl, filled with impatience. Regardless of the number of times he tried, he was unable to get within a 1-meter radius of that dragon pearl. However, Heavenly Roar's bloodline was indeed extremely pure. The dragon pearl apparently flickered a few times, apparently it had sensed a strong presence of dragon race on Heavenly Roar's body. But it only flickered a few times, and nothing more. A weak descendant of dragon race was still incapable of obtaining its approval. Yang Chen grabbed Heavenly Roar with his hands and transmitted a thought to him. Heavenly Roar quickly calmed down and stopped rotating around that dragon pearl. He calmly sat on Yang Chen's arm, placing his small head at the back of his hand, becoming motionless. Apparently, he had also understood that his strength was quite low and insufficient to obtain the dragon pearl. After placating Heavenly Roar, Yang Chen walked towards the 8 jade cases. That jade case which previously contained the flying shuttle was completely empty. Yang Chen tried to extend his hand to the other jade cases. Perhaps, Heavenly Roar's dragon clan's bloodline was truly effective. The jade case on which the small golden bell was placed, which Yang Chen had been unable to previously reach with his hand, suddenly opened with a brilliant light. Yang Chen was greatly exalted and he again extended his right arm on which Heavenly Roar was sitting and soon encountered the same barrier. Yang Chen knew that this was the restriction of the jade case, however, presently, many changes had happened with it. After coming in contact with the hand, the invisible barrier surprisingly softened up. This discovery left Yang Chen both surprised and joyous. What was even more unexpected was that Heavenly Roar opened his small mouth and began to absorb the golden brilliance, bit by bit. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 236. Formidable Golden Bell. Just after coming in contact for a while, Yang Chen discovered that the barrier closest to the mouth of Xiaoyan on his hand had become softer. This was simply an unexpected surprise. If Xiaoyan could absorb all these things, it meant that Yang Chen could easily get the things in the jade case. Thinking of this, Yang Chen had been unable to hold back his excitement and began to use the beast-controlling secret art to communicate with Xiaoyan to let it absorb the light as quickly as possible. In that case, he could quickly make a hole in the thickness of his arm so that Yang Chen could reach and take out the golden bell. Xiaoyan also understood the meaning of Yang Chen, but the actual implementation was the problem. Of course, this couldn't be blamed on him. It was really that the light that shines seemed to be in a general flow. After only a moment of loss, the light around it began to supplement the loss and the barrier began to slowly harden. It seemed that this was a gradual process. Yang Chen could only wait while guessing what the golden bell on the jade case was. This process took a whole month and the Xiaoyan seemed to be very fond of this kind of light which it constantly absorbed. Yang Chen knew that there must be a lot of dragon Kai in it, otherwise it will not be like this. Almost occasionally, Yang Chen would try to touch the restriction on the jade case. The invisible barrier was getting softer and softer, the surrounding light was also getting shallower. When the light finally disappeared, Yang Chen's hand had been put into the barrier impatiently. The originally sturdy barrier was like a soft film at this moment, was broken quickly. Yang Chen's hand grabbed the golden bell and then quickly retreated. Who knew if there would be any change in the restriction, turning matters to take a turn for the worse. The small golden bell looked like it had been battered by time. It was an unusually beautiful bell that was full of delicate dragon marks. If you looked at it carefully, there were 9 golden dragons hovering on the outer bell. Each one had a different shape, with their claws dancing, but each one was so beautiful and lifelike. Inside the golden bell was a hanging metal ball that he didn't know what material it was made of. The ball also had a delicate pattern, but it was not in a dragon shape, but a regular pattern. In his hands, the golden bell was very light, as if it had no weight. Yang Chen tried to shake it. Unexpectedly, the ball inside the golden bell did not move, nor did it make any sound. This was not surprising. It could make the old Dragon King serious enough to put it in his hidden treasure house and use the restricted barrier to seal it. If it could be easily swayed, it would not be worth the lengths the old Dragon King went to protect it. Filled with curiosity, Yang Chen began to try to input spiritual power into the golden bell. However, when Yang Chen's spiritual power entered the golden bell, it was like a needle entering a sea, it disappeared without a trace. There was usually only one reason for this to happen, the spiritual power required and the input had a very large disparity, which, thus, caused such a situation. After he estimated the amount of his spiritual power, Yang Chen had to be frustrated to admit that even if he put all his spiritual power into the golden bell, it was estimated that he could not meet the needs of the golden bell. However, there was a huge East China Sea chart outside, and there were countless spiritual veins on it, which could provide Yang Chen with a steady stream of spiritual support. Yang Chen didn't want to go straight outside, so he found a submarine spiritual vein that was not used by the sects. He put down the obsidian jade rush cushion. Sitting on the obsidian jade rush cushion, Yang Chen held the golden bell in both hands and then began to input his spiritual power into the golden bell. With the input of Yang Chen's spiritual power, the size of the golden bell began to grow bigger and bigger. Slowly, Yang Chen's hands could not easily contain it. He had to put the already grown golden bell in front of him and touch its top with his hands. The spiritual power madly poured into the golden bell while it got bigger and bigger. When the golden bell changed to a higher level than Yang Chen's body, he discovered that he couldn't continue as is. He had been unable to control the output speed of the spiritual power. The spiritual power input from his body seemed as if being swallowed up by a black hole, it crazily flowed from his hands to the golden bell. The spiritual power in his whole body was absorbed in less than 100 breaths. Fortunately, Yang Chen was now able to control the absorption of the spiritual power with his formidable spiritual awareness. The huge spiritual veins and the obsidian jade rush cushion came together to provide this possibility of controlling this crazy absorption. In addition to being able to maintain his self-imposed absorption of spiritual power from the obsidian jade rush cushion, Yang Chen could no longer do other things. As soon as the spiritual power entered his body, it was directly swallowed up by the golden bell, and none remained. Fortunately, Yang Chen's Yang 5 Phases secret art provided 10 times more spiritual power and 10 times more absorption speed than the ordinary foundation stage, which let the supply of spiritual power to the golden bell become possible. Yang Chen had now begun to regret it. This level of magic weapon was not something that he could use, but curiosity had caused Yang Chen to fall into this state which he was not able to get rid of. There was no other choice than to allow the crazy absorption of spiritual power by the golden bell. What made Yang Chen increasingly fearful was that as the golden bell absorbed increasingly more spiritual power, the speed of the absorption got faster and faster. There were also signs that he eventually would be unable to keep up with the supply. If he couldn't keep up with the speed of the golden bell's absorption of spiritual power, will he not be sucked dry by the golden bell soon? The surface of the golden bell began to brighten slowly and the dragons became clearer and brighter. The dragon pattern above seemed to have begun to bulge slowly, becoming like a relief, just like the 9 gold dragons that were slowly inflating. Yang Chen's spiritual power absorption finally reached the limit and could no longer provide faster spiritual power absorption. The golden bell seemed to be able to feel the state of Yang Chen, thus, it maintained the speed of spiritual power absorption at that level. Quickly a light flashed, Yang Chen seemed to see the dragon's eye that was facing him. The dragon's eye flashed slightly. When he was doubting whether it was an illusion, the golden bell suddenly stopped absorbing spiritual power. Just when Yang Chen was surprised, he felt a slight tremor of the golden bell, a low and heavy bell sound rang from the golden bell. The heavy sound was mixed with a terrible impact. Being so close, Yang Chen almost instantly fainted. In the sea where the treasure house was located, a huge ripple suddenly appeared, followed by a bang, causing countless splashes. Within 100 miles, all the creatures lost consciousness in an instant, and even the seabirds flying through the sky fell sharply. The huge ripple formed a wave several feet high and began to spread towards the surroundings. After a long time, the sea area slowly calmed down, but there were countless kinds of fish and shrimp with white bellies floating above the sea. When Yang Chen woke up, he didn't even know how long he had been fainted. He only knew that there was no pain in his whole body. The spiritual power in his body was completely depleted and there was no trace of it left. In his sea of consciousness, it seemed that there was still a heavy and clear bell sound, it was seemingly endless. Although it was said that he woke up, but only his awareness was alert in his mind. But his mind was still like a river and unfocused. Even if he wanted to concentrate, it was impossible. Yang Chen could only lie on the ground like this and slowly wait for a natural recovery. At this time, Yang Chen didn't think about taking a medicine as even controlling his spiritual power was impossible. The imperial power of the golden bell was evident. Maintaining such an awkward state for at least 3 days, the shock in Yang Chen's sea of consciousness finally and slowly slowed down to a point that Yang Chen could accept. Enduring the mad tremor, Yang Chen began to control his spiritual power and healed his injuries. In these few days, the water did not approach him, he was lying on the spiritual vein, but he did not get even a little spiritual supplement. If it wasn't for Yang Chen's physical strength, he would have passed away. Spiritual power slowly entered the dry meridian of Yang Chen and began to slowly moisturize his body. After a while, Yang Chen finally got some strength and sat up with his arms. The first thing he did after sitting up was to eat 2 profound yang fruit from the medicine garden. The huge spiritual supply, coupled with the fullness of the food in his belly, made Yang Chen a little better. After the spiritual power of the profound Yang fruit was completely absorbed by Yang Chen, he began to cultivate the three purities secret art. In Yang Chen's sea of consciousness, there was still the bell sound and he still felt dizzy, but he couldn't eliminate this influence. The three purities secret art was worthy to be a grand supreme elderly lord cultivation method, only after cultivating one heavenly circulation, the feeling of shock had been greatly reduced. He did not say anything and continued to practice. With 8-1 heavenly circulation of the three purities secret art for 2 days and 2 nights, no such tremor remained in his sea of consciousness and his mind returned to full awareness. At this time, Yang Chen had practiced the yin and yang 5 phases secret art cultivation for several heavenly circulations and frantically replenished his lost spiritual power. The golden bell still had its huge appearance and it was placed not far in front of Yang Chen, but he did not dare to move closer to it easily. Just a while ago, he almost disappeared and he could be sure that it was not the full power of the golden bell. In this case, if he disturbs it again, was it not like courting his own death? Yang Chen still did not know the situation outside the hidden treasure house of the Dragon Palace. All the ordinary creatures within 100 miles had died and even the monsters below the foundation stage have all died. Those who were above the foundation stage were all in a coma. Until now, after waking up, they were still unable to distinguish between the southeast and the northwest, all the monsters were stumbling around in a mess. Sure enough, when Yang Chen looked at this golden bell higher than himself, he could only sigh. No wonder the old Dragon King kept it in the treasure house. It had not even reached full power yet. After it reached full power, what would it become? Speaking of it, Yang Chen was slightly affected. After all, the bell was initiated by his spiritual power. He was the initiator of the attack. The attack of the magic weapon would not hurt the owner. This was common sense. But just the impact had already caused Yang Chen to be so injured. Facing its full attack, he did not know what the situation would be like. Such a good thing, Yang Chen's heart almost burst with joy, he couldn't wait to get his hands on it. In any case, Yang Chen did not dare to even input a little bit of spiritual power into the golden bell. Fortunately, laying down a spiritual awareness imprint did not require spiritual power as a support. If his spiritual awareness was strong enough, he still had an advantage. Sacrificial refining. Yang Chen didn't think about it. He sat directly on the obsidian jade rush cushion and began to collect the golden bell. At this time, his formidable sea of consciousness and huge spiritual awareness played a huge role and began to penetrate the entire golden bell little by little. Even with the three purities secret art as the source of his spiritual awareness, Yang Chen still spent half a month to complete the initial steps. When Yang Chen's spiritual awareness imprint was successfully engraved in the golden bell violently turned into a golden shadow which was then hidden in his body. Boom, countless memories breached and poured into Yang Chen's mind. After a while, Yang Chen was sure that these were the instructions of the golden bell. If he followed these instructions, he would be able to impel the golden bell without the slightest injury. However, the spiritual power required to utilize the golden bell was no longer imaginable by Yang Chen. At least until Yang Chen reached the peak Yuning realm, he would not have to consider this issue. Even if it was the peak of Yuning realm, it would not be so easy if he wanted to understand the golden bell completely. At most, it would be like this time, a resounding sound. If he wanted to fly in Kowloon, the golden bell was ringing and he would have to consider it again. However, before this, the golden bell did not have any use. When the golden bell fitted into the body of Yang Chen, it created a natural protective barrier for him. It was equivalent to his body having a powerful protective magic weapon to protect it at any time. After discovering this, Yang Chen's mind naturally came up with a vocabulary. The golden bell cover. This was simply a true golden bell cover. But the cover of the golden bell, even if Yang Chen stood in the dome hall and he let the 7-7 flying sword slash at him, Yang Chen would not feel anything. This was just the power of the golden bell after Yang Chen had just collected it. After he does the sacrificial refining, it would be more powerful and the protection would double. After getting thoroughly refined by Yang Chen, the bell will also have its most powerful attribute unlocked. The golden bell will even get triggered by an enemy's attack, directly countering it. This kind of magic weapon with both offensive and defensive features, even if it was in the immortal world, would be a rare treasure. Bringing Xiao Yan to the Dragon Palace did not let Yang Chen be disappointed. Just this golden bell was enough to make Yang Chen stunned. Not to mention that there were 6 jade cases in the hall, waiting for Yang Chen to open the barriers one by one and collect the magic weapons inside. Now, Yang Chen was looking forward to it, were the rest as good as this golden bell. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 237. Massive Wealth. In a rather happy mood, Yang Chen rushed back to the main hall. He tried to let Xiao Yan open the pagoda's restriction. A pity he could not do so this time around. The pagoda restriction light outside did not even flash. It was not that the level of Xiaoyan was too low. The level of the restriction was too high for only two reasons. Yang Chen could only turn to the next one, the two long-horned jade cases. It was a pity that the two long-horned restrictions still had no movement. He tried everything until he was near the bottle gourd, this time it had a response. The light was shining again, this time it was not a white light, but a blue one. Xiaoyan was obviously happy and its big mouth was enjoying the light just like something delicious. Yang Chen could feel a trace of dragon Kai from those lights, which was a natural tonic for Xiaoyan. For Yang Chen, it also meant that he could get a heartwarming treasure again. The solemn piece bottle gourd placed in the jade case did not seem to be eye-catching. The side was large and asymmetrical. The whole gourd showed a dark yellow color that seemed to have not been picked up for a long time. There was still a lot of mottled shadows on it. He didn't know how many years had passed with it lying here. The middle part of the gourd was tied with a red string which was very casual. He didn't know what was inside and why it was kept here by the Dragon King. The devouring of the Xiaoyan was not urgent, Yang Chen also patiently waited while quietly practicing the three purities secret art. After the sound of the golden bell, Yang Chen's spiritual awareness was somewhat shocked and he had to cultivate rigorously to relieve it. Half a month later, the restriction on the periphery of the jade case with the gourd was once again swallowed up by Xiaoyan. Yang Chen had been waiting for this moment and could not wait more before grabbing the gourd. The gourd was not big and the place where his hand was holding it, the waist just fit perfectly. That part seemed to have been held often and a light was shining about it, making it very comfortable to hold. In his hands, the gourd seems to have little weight, was not very heavy. When gently shaken, you could even hear a screaming sound inside, as if it was filled with something. Yang Chen's other hand was immediately placed on the mouth of the gourd. That part of the gourd was stuffed with a cork. Stretching his hand and using force to try and open it, Yang Chen immediately became stunned, this gourd could not open. That was normal, as if it could be opened easily, it would be strange. If it was that easy it would not be worthy of the attention of the Dragon King. However, with the lessons from the Golden Bell, Yang Chen did not dare to input his spiritual power casually, he went out and found a position on a spiritual vein to sit down and started to follow the old method. First he used his spiritual awareness imprint to bind it. The strong sense of the Yuning realm, middle stage formidable spiritual awareness, was enough to bind this gourd. However, it still took Yang Chen a full half a month to successfully lay down his own spiritual awareness imprint in the gourd. Just like the Golden Bell, when the spiritual awareness imprint successfully entered the gourd, a series of memories directly entered the mind of Yang Chen through the spiritual awareness imprint and Yang Chen knew how to control the gourd. What surprised Yang Chen was that the gourd turned out to be just a container, which made Yang Chen almost collapse. Just a container was worthy enough for the old Dragon King to so seriously place it here. Isn't a cosmos bag enough to put things in, why should it be placed in this gourd? However, although it was only a container, there were still some functions that were different from the cosmos bag. This hoist could not only store liquids, it also had additional, very powerful functions. Different liquids could be stored separately, never to affect each other. And would bring out the same liquid the gourd owner wanted to pour out. That was not the most exciting function of this gourd. The most important function was that no matter what liquid was put in, it will be affected by the action of the gourd itself and will change more and more towards the mellow direction. If this was the case, this gourd was simply a beautiful wine gourd. Think about it, the wine you brewed would be more and more mellow, what kind of taste would it have? Of course, it's not just limited to fine wines, but there were other things like fragrant liquid, which could also be aged. What does aging mean? Increasing of its age. If a liquid stuff was put into the gourd, it could age without you knowing it. Was there anything more beautiful than this? Yang Chen couldn't wait to open the gourd. When he opened it, he found that there were only two kinds of liquid inside. A thick and infinite liquid with an amber glow. The other was a purple liquid which emitted a little bit of fluorescence and it was beautiful. The amount of these two liquids was very shocking and each one was like a huge lake. The liquid that when you shake the hoist screams outside was simply two giant lakes. With Yang Chen's knowledge, it was easy to preliminarily determine what these two liquids were. However, as soon as he saw such a huge amount, Yang Chen was somewhat uncertain. He found a piece of jade and used a flying sword to quickly spin it into a jade cup. He placed it in the profound spirit furnace. After a simple burning of the true sun fire and moon true fire, Yang Chen picked up the gourd and gently dropped out an amber thick liquid out of the gourd. As soon as the liquid entered the jade cup, it instantly gave off a wonderful smell. This smell made Yang Chen stand absent-mindedly in the same place. This taste, is this really the taste of the most mellowed wine, how is this possible? The reason why Yang Chen was not sure of it was because of that huge lake, it was too much. How many raw materials were needed to make so much wine? Just smelling the smell of this mellowed wine, and one would know what kind of precious raw materials were used inside. Numerous monks could compete for a lifetime for these things. To the old Dragon King, it was nothing but a raw material for brewing wine. How was this humanly possible? What made Yang Chen feel the most unbelievable was that this treasure trove was not known for how many thousands of years that it had been here. But the aging and mellowed effect of the gourd, how delicious were these wines now? Yang Chen felt it was almost impossible to guess. Perhaps, in the heavenly court, the jade wine of the celestial beings was also so much like this. It may even be worse than this. We must know that it had only been a few years after the rebellion in the heavenly court. The new Jade Emperor was only a few years old. With that chaotic situation, it was certain that no good things would have been left for the rebels. Even if it was the current Jade Emperor, it was impossible to enjoy this level of fine wine. After thinking about that point, Yang Chen's mood suddenly improved. Although tens of thousands of years of wine has become a thick colloidal wine, he still raised his neck and poured a drop of the wine into his mouth. He felt the peerless taste that came out of the fusion of his saliva and that wine, making him intoxicated. However, the powerful spiritual power contained in the wine awakened him from that intoxication. The line of fire rushed directly from his mouth to the sole of his foot and then rushed back to the top of his head. Then the line of fire turned cool and once again went up and down his whole body. So, the hot and cold process repeated itself 9 times. His whole body was almost like it was at its most comfortable period. It was far better than a spa bath. Even Yang Chen, who was a strong-willed person, felt as light as a feather and wished that such a feeling will never go away. This kind of taste, such enjoyment, even if the old Dragon King was replaced with Yang Chen, he would definitely put this in the most secret treasure house. But this lake wine base, Yang Chen would not be able to accept another liquid that isn't this wine. Purple, scattered with fluorescence, these two features could be found in many materials, but when combined, and at the same time being liquid, especially found in the treasure house of the old Dragon King, it seemed that there was only one possibility: My's Tirios coral liquid. There was no other possibility. My's Tirios coral liquid was a liquid secreted by the 1,000-year-old black corals in the northeast and northwest of the sea. However, this liquid was extremely precious. Only after the millennium black coral had grown to more than 1,000 years would it secrete a drop from its body every year. How many thousand years of black coral could there be? Collecting a drop every year, how long would it take to collect as many of it to form this lake? Yang Chen's entire brain was filled with shock. Even if he was born with a Great Principle Golden Immortal memory, he still could not maintain his calm. Not to mention the Great Principle Golden Immortal, even if it was the old Jade Emperor who died under Yang Chen's immortal beheading blade, who he did not know for how many years he had lived. He would not necessarily have had such a large volume of mysterious coral liquid. That was, the old Dragon King, who was the first to get to the moon in the near-water platform. He did not know how many generations of efforts he must have had relied on to collect so much mysterious coral liquid. Mysterious coral liquid does not have many effects. Just after drinking a little, it could thoroughly wash the impurities in the body so that the body becomes as pure as snow. Or if it was added in alchemy, it could shorten the time of alchemical brewing a little and could also improve the quality of the drug. Either in the refining process or thorough integration of different materials. Of course, the impurities in the body would be ejected every time you advanced. However, even if the Yuning realm was upgraded to the Daching realm, the Yin Fire Tribulat Yan could only remove 90% of the impurities in the body, and the mysterious coral liquid could eliminate 9% if 100 kilograms was consumed. Which means you could eject about 99% of the impurities. The Tao was okay, usually there would not be too many impurities. But for many demon and monster cultivators or the monks who practice special exercises, had absorbed countless different materials during their cultivation, it often could cause problems in their body. With the mysterious coral liquid, there would be no need to worry about such a situation. The alchemy time was shortened because mysterious coral liquid was a very good neutralizer and catalyst, which allowed most drugs to fuse faster without conflicts. With the mysterious coral liquid, the stability of the drug would be greatly improved. In that case, it was possible to carry out 2 to 3 revolutions or even higher level refining. If Wu Xiong had this thing in his hands when he was refining the heaven seizing pill, even the final medicinal pill would not be black colored. This was the difference. As for refining, it was also due to the neutralization and catalytic properties of the mysterious coral liquid. Even if it was a 5-phase material, under the neutralization of the mysterious coral liquid, there would be no violent reactions. The success rate of the refining would be greatly improved and a more stable and uniform material could be obtained. This profound increase in the quality of refining allowed even refining across levels. The magic weapon that originally needed the Yuning realm to be refined after having the mysterious coral liquid was likely to be refined like in the Jitan realm. Based on the rarity of the mysterious coral liquid, the price of a drop of it in the market had exceeded 1 jin of high-grade spirit stones. If someone discovered a 1,000-year-old black coral, he would definitely protect it as a treasure with his life. Unless he died, he would never let it go. He knew that this was just the value of a drop. What would be the value of such a lake of mysterious coral liquid? Even if it was converted into top-grade spirit stone, the amount could kill Yang Chen. Was it still the mysterious coral liquid of the 1,000-year-old coral? Yang Chen couldn't even judge how many years had it been in this gourd, but it would not be less than 20,000 years. It would take about that much to collect so much of it. Such a huge wealth. In the early days of Yang Chen's previous life, he did not have a bit of impression. It was estimated that he had never been born. Now, this piece of heavenly wealth, which was estimated to be coveted by even the heavenly court, had already reached the hands of Yang Chen. After waking up from the shock, the first thing he did was to hold the jade cup and pour a drop of the wine yeast out, and then he used the mysterious coral liquid to melt it. After that he greedily drank it into his stomach. This top-grade delicacy was something one must enjoy promptly when one has it. But such a good thing, Yang Chen certainly would not forget his own spiritual pet, thus, the same cup of mysterious coral liquid was poured for Xiaotian. Ejection of the impurities from the body of Xiaotian meant that the bloodline of the wolf dragon would become pure. After drinking their fill, Yang Chen and Xiaotian were all spoiled, so they ignored their image and laid on the spiritual vein of the nautical chart. The abnormal sweetness of this sleep was the normal reaction after taking the mysterious coral liquid. No matter how high the person's cultivation was, they would sleep a lot. In their sleep, Yang Chen and Xiaotian began to ooze a trace of black liquid. It was like grease on the surface of their bodies. When he woke up, Yang Chen sat up and stretched out a yawn. Since he had started cultivating, he had not had such a comfortable sleep, only to feel refreshed all over his body. It was like he was free from any attachments. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 238. 10th Water True Essence. Although Yang Chen's body had been nourished by the essence of tens of thousands of divine immortal life essences, it did not mean that he had no impurities. In fact, because of this, Yang Chen's body had the most impurities. After all, the divine immortal life essence with different attributes were all absorbed by Yang Chen. It seemed that Yang Chen did not have any problems, but it was only because of his low level of cultivation. When his cultivation dose began to get deeper and deeper, this hidden danger would gradually emerge. In the final analysis, the old demon Yi's demonic heart was still magical, and the beginning was easy. Future cultivation would become more difficult, and this hidden danger would gradually emerge. But now it was completely different. With the mysterious coral liquid, even if Yang Chen couldn't exhaust the impurities at once, he could do it gradually. This was what Yang Chen realized after discovering that his body's impurities were much more than Xiaotian. At that time, he was very strange. Xiaotian's bloodline was stimulated by the howling celestial dog's blood essence, postnatal. How could it have less impurities than the impurities in his body? After trying to understand this, he began to have a cold sweat, even wanting to cry out in alarm. It seemed that the heavens wanted to let Yang Chen sit back and relax, so they sent the mysterious coral liquid to him. This kind of gift was 100 times better, and he would not refuse. "You are really my lucky star, Xiaotian," Yang Chen said while happily hugging Xiaotian. Xiaotian also noticed the joy of Yang Chen and was also very happy to wiggle in Yang Chen's hand. The dark impurities on the surface of their body were messed up. Splash. A stream of water appeared out of thin air, just like the last time when building the foundation. Yang Chen controlled this stream of water, washed the impurities in his and Xiaotian's body, while quickly collecting them into a jade bottle. These kinds of impurities from the body were the best medicine for chronic poisons. The two magic weapons were good things that made Yang Chen too shocked to jump up. Yang Chen couldn't wait to see what else was left. What disappointed Yang Chen was that the remaining 5 jade cases were left with only 1 jade, whose restriction coursed resonance with Xiaotian and shined. This time it was still a blue light, but Xiaotian only took a mouthful and swallowed it up, as if it had eaten a lot that needs to be digested. The performance of Xiaotian made Yang Chen very helpless. No way the level of Xiaotian was too low. Having swallowed up 2 restrictions worth of Dragon Kai, it was estimated that it was almost at its limit. The third was naturally slower to absorb. However, Yang Chen wanted to know about them urgently. But he couldn't do anything about it. He could only communicate with Xiaotian using the beast-controlling secret art to promise it a lot of benefits. This allowed Xiaotian to devour the Dragon Kai with more vigor. Even so, when the third restriction's Dragon Kai was absorbed, it still couldn't resist the feeling of inhaling too much Dragon Kai. In Yang Chen's hand, it went to sleep immediately. Yang Chen carefully sent Zhanxian back to the medicine garden, placing the bright light sword and the blood phantom vine sword around it. Then he also released a dozen pieces of magic weapons inside. The azure jade cup on the jade case was carefully taken by Yang Chen in his hand and placed in front of his eyes. The azure jade cup was not empty, just like the gourd, but it was not spatial, it was filled with some transparent and clear liquid, which was colorless and tasteless. What was this? Yang Chen cautiously did not dare to shake it even a little, for fear of spilling that liquid. He sniffed it, but found it of no special significance. He wanted to input spiritual power to try, but then he remembered the golden bell, thus, he held back and began to explore with his spiritual awareness. His spiritual awareness very easily passed through the azure jade cup without the slightest pause. Yang Chen was startled, this was an unprecedented matter, was this azure jade cup not a magic weapon? He tried it again, but his spiritual awareness still very simple passed through it, it did not stop. Yang Chen suddenly realized what he needed to do. He carefully placed the azure jade cup on the ground, closed his eyes and tried to explore with his spiritual awareness. Eventually he became shocked. Since Yang Chen started cultivating the three purities secret art, his spiritual awareness had risen sharply, and he had also absorbed the Immortal Executioner Stage killing intent. After fusing all kinds of flame, he also absorbed many other treasures in addition. Now his spiritual awareness had already reached the standard of Yuaning realm, middle stage. Moreover, there was those three purities secret art formidable spiritual awareness threads, including the Dacheng realm, old tree monster, most good at hiding their personal appearance, were all discovered by Yang Chen. However, Yang Chen now closed his eyes, but couldn't find anything in front of him. If it wasn't he himself who put the azure jade cup there, Yang Chen would have thought that there was nothing there. It was a miracle to obtain good materials that could ignore spiritual awareness. If someone used this material to make a piece of clothing that covers the whole body, then doesn't that mean that others couldn't find him with spiritual awareness? In addition to spiritual awareness being unable to explore it, marking it was even more close to impossible. How could this be refined? For the time being, Yang Chen could not think of any method. Another thing that made Yang Chen wonder was the colorless liquid in the azure jade cup. In Yang Chen's memory, there was no obvious information about it. This was very strange. Was it not just ordinary water? He very carefully used a silver needle that he made with his hand to penetrate the jade. After a little liquid was left on the tip, he slowly pulled it out. As soon as it left the half-foot range of the azure jade cup, Yang Chen suddenly noticed a pure and powerful 10th water spirit power from the tip of the needle. The spiritual power was so pure that the 10th water spirit power in Yang Chen's body was directly attracted and began to fluctuate. This. Yang Chen carefully felt the pure spiritual power in his mouth, he made two more incredible sounds. Where was this clear water? Clearly it was the pure to the extreme 10th water true essence, the essential true element in the cultivation of 10th water true secret art. It was also the most original source of water. Now Yang Chen had no idea how to describe his feelings. Apart from Yang and Zhanxian, there seemed to be no one else to express them to. Yang Chen's laughter was a bit ugly and he had to suppress this impulse. But the 10th water true essence, Yang Chen could cultivate the true 10th water true secret art and let himself go further towards the completion of the great yin and yang 5 phases secret art. It was also possible to greatly improve his cultivation, which was exactly what Yang Chen was currently doing. However, now Yang Chen was somewhat worried. In the jade cup, there was only such a small amount of 10th water true essence, would it be enough for the cultivation of the 10th water true secret art? In any case, Yang Chen still had to collect this 10th water true essence first. He worried that if he did not, he might accidentally drop the jade cup and lose it. Preserving the 10th water true essence was not a simple matter. Jade bottles were a requirement. In addition, many formations and talismans were needed to avoid its dissipation. To gather this 10th water true essence, Yang Chen had to do detailed preparation work first. It was no surprise that with his shallow cultivation base, it had taken him a few decades time to gather the 7th metal true essence. Of course, Yang Chen did not have to prepare for such a long time. After all, the 10th water true essence was already in the jade cup. All Yang Chen needed to do was pour it into a jade bottle to collect it. Therefore, what Yang Chen mainly needed was those talismans. Although the required preparations were reduced, Yang Chen still made at least 3 times as many talismans as insurance. His cultivation base was low and could not be compared with Scarface's. As such, he could only make up for it with a quantity of talismans. Carefully, he picked up the jade cup and then placed it against the mouth of the jade bottle. He tilted the jade cup slightly and poured it into the jade bottle, striving not to waste a single drop of the 10th water true essence. It could not be helped, the jade cup was the size of his palm and the 10th water true essence shallowly covered the bottom. Even with such a small jade bottle, only half the bottle was filled. If even a single drop was wasted, it would have made Yang Chen distressed. When the 10th water true essence fell into the jade bottle, Yang Chen immediately put down the jade cup. He quickly made a series of movements with his hands and attached dozens of talismans to the jade bottle. This set of actions that Yang Chen simply did was the electro-optic flint. There was no pause until everything was completed. Only when the jade bottle did not have the slightest water to leak did Yang Chen become relieved. Once he had poured everything into the jade bottle, Yang Chen picked up the jade cup to collect it but was immediately stunned. At the bottom of the jade cup there was still a trace of moisture. Yang Chen had just dumped everything from the jade cup. He would never make such a mistake. He recalled that he had really poured out all the 10th water true essence, so there shouldn't have been any moisture left in the jade cup. After realizing that there was a problem, Yang Chen did not simply store away the jade cup. He had to examine it. What if the jade cup was a magical treasure? Waiting was very difficult. Yang Chen cultivated the 3 purities secret art, the yin and yang 5 phases secret art, and then even cultivated the yellow turban strongman body refining technique. Even after cultivating, he saw that there was still no obvious change in the jade cup. Finally, he took out the gourd and poured the mysterious coral liquid blended wine, drank until he was full, and then lay down satisfied on the nautical chart. In Yang Chen's body, there were indeed too many impurities. After drinking the mysterious coral liquid, he once again fell asleep as his body seeped a greasy black liquid. Yang Chen was not afraid of any danger in the treasure house of the Dragon Palace, so he slept comfortably. This time, he slept longer. It was only after sleeping for 5 days and 5 nights that he woke up. Yang Chen refused to even take care of his greasy body before looking directly at the jade cup. At the bottom of the cup, there had been a magical reappearance of the liquid. Although it was less than only 1% of the original amount, it was obviously there. Suppressing his excitement, Yang Chen carefully took a silver needle and dipped it in the liquid. Immediately, he felt the pure and authentic aura of the 10th water true essence. Sure enough, this jade cup was indeed able to condense 10th water true essence. Considering this point, coupled with the fact that spiritual awareness could not explore it, this jade cup was a peerless treasure. The 10th water true essence was originally a water of the sea. Now that he was in the East China Sea, Yang Chen could wait here to collect enough of the 10th water true essence needed to cultivate the 10th water true secret art before going back. Taking advantage of this time, Yang Chen also used the mysterious coral liquid to completely discharge the impurities in his body. If he did not, the hidden dangers would still be there and later cause him a lot of trouble. The Dragon Palace hidden treasure house was so safe that he was not even worried about sleeping there. Although the other houses in the second Fierce Yang courtyard were equally safe, the old tree demon was now refining and absorbing the Penglai divine wood. His avatar was still sitting in the 100,000 mountains and was unable to divide many spirits to protect himself. The environment here was also suitable for cultivation and would not cause many people doubts. It was just the right place for Yang Chen. Yang Chen never thought that there were so many hidden dangers in his body. After the fear subsided, he also felt fortunate. If he had not obtained the mysterious coral liquid this time, he would not have realized how many impurities were hidden in his body. From this point of view, he was still very lucky. While he was waiting for the jade cup to absorb the 10th water true essence in the East China Sea, Yang Chen had enough time to drink at least dozens of cups of the mysterious coral liquid and slept for more than 200 days. At the beginning, his body discharged greasy black fluids. Slowly the color of the fluids began to fade, gradually becoming gray. By the end, very few impurities were discharged. Even so, the mysterious coral liquid was also good for treating diseases. Drinking it could develop a strong immunity to diseases, so drinking more was not a big problem. The jade cup continuously condensed the 10th water true essence, which was poured into the jade bottle, little by little. Finally, there was enough 10th water true essence for Yang Chen to cultivate the 10th water true secret art. During this time, Xiao Yan had been sleeping. It seemed that the third restriction had indeed exceeded its limits. He could not digest and absorb the dragon Kai easily. Yang Chen had stayed in the Dragon Palace hidden treasure house for almost a year. He would have to leave this place as his disappearance for nearly a year may have made his sect worried. Moreover, he still had a few promises to keep. He had to teach the palace master, had to go out and travel with Sun Xiaoxu, and he had also promised to visit the Blue Cloud sect. Fortunately, he also was qualified to participate in Blue Cloud sect's auctions. Blue Cloud sect was a big sect and there were always some good things to auction. Perhaps he could catch up and see if there were any good things to buy. Yang Chen's flying shuttle appeared again in the depths of the sea as he left the hidden treasure house. Suddenly his heart moved, the imprint that the guys who tracked him planted started to tremble in a few Qianqin bags. After he left the hidden treasure house, Yang Chen opened a gap in his spiritual awareness's bindings and secretly examined the spiritual awareness imprint of the opposite party. With just this little action, Yang Chen immediately felt the spiritual awareness imprint begin to tremble slightly. This showed that the other party was still searching for his trace. For a moment, Yang Chen was speechless with anger. This kind of tracking, it was true that when the young master was muddy, he still couldn't make it. TL. This final sentence may be a poem. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 239. Cat and Mouse. The spiritual awareness mark could only let the person who is tracking know the direction of the target relative to himself. If the distance was close enough, within 100 miles, it may also be able to roughly define the range of the target, but it did not allow people to find the exact position. If he was tracking a strong expect, he couldn't find the other person's position. Unless the target was trapped in a certain formation under his own arrangement and a spiritual awareness mark on his body, only then he would be able to find him accurately. However, the person who was following Yang Chen's line now knew exactly where the spiritual awareness imprint on Yang Chen's body was. Such scenarios had been experienced by him several times during the year. Above, a dozen people looked at the sea under their feet bitterly, all of whom had a strong aura. These people seemed to have experienced a lot of hardships and they were a bit distressed. Among the crowds, there was only one Yuning expert and the others were at the Jitan realm. The spiritual awareness imprint showed that Yang Chen was below them and they did not know exactly where it was, but it was definitely in this area. This time it would not be the Cosmos bag again, right? The leader was the Yuning expert, but now on his face, there was no pride, but only annoyance. The other people's faces and performances were not much better. Over the past year or so, the group of more than a dozen people had tracked Yang Chen. Every time they tracked in one direction, they would spend a lot of effort to explore to the bottom of the sea, only to end up discovering a terrible monster. If it weren't for a dozen people with decent cultivation and the magic weapon of a Yuning ancestor working together, they would not have been able to retreat. But even so, everyone was embarrassed. The most uncomfortable matter was that every time they found the source, it would not be a Cosmos bag, but something marked with the spiritual awareness imprint. Yang Chen's figure would not even be a hair near it. Once or twice, everyone thought that Yang Chen was sly. But after 8 times and 10 times, apart from exhaustion and numbness, everyone had no other ideas. However, despite this, everyone did not dare to relax. Yang Chen was the person designated from above. They didn't dare to say any words. They could only go deep into the sea and inquire about him. Many people were wondering how Yang Chen knew the homes of these powerful monsters in this deep sea. Every time he was so accurate that he had put those things just beside the monsters. If they followed the spiritual awareness imprint, they would surely alarm the beast, with no exception. The Yuning ancestor was tired and bored, but unlike the other Jitan realm masters, he knew very well that once he could catch Yang Chen, it would be a great credit and how much benefit it could bring. The name of the inner heart pill, after the event of the 100,000 mountains, was passed from above. The effect was said to have been thoroughly tested by the Elder Hua Wanting of Blue Cloud Sect and the Elder Min Huifeng of Green Jade Immortal Island. Legend said that it could almost rival the Heaven Seizing Pill and may even be stronger. Heaven Seizing Pill could only be taken by a master of the Great Ascension Stage. Otherwise, the masters below the Great Ascension Stage would only have one result after taking it. Their spiritual power would soar and they would explode and die. However, Ask Inner Heart Pill was different. You could take it from the bottom to the top of a realm and it sounded like the lower the realm, the higher the success rate of promotion. If Yang Chen arrives, it means that the recipe of the Ask Inner Heart Pill was in his hands. It was also said that Yang Chen still keeps medicinal material needed for the Ask Inner Heart Pill and would open another furnace in 30 years. 30 years was enough for him to advance higher. If he arrives in the realm of Jitan realm, it meant that the furnace would produce more Ask Inner Heart Pill than the previous one. Even if there was only one, at least the Yuning realm leader could be sure that it was no longer a dream to enter the Great Ascension Stage. This huge advantage stimulated him. How could it not make people feel mad fascination? This was not a reward from his superiors, not to mention the Yuning ancestor, a master of the Great Ascension Stage, would be willing to do anything to just catch a glimpse of it. The above has already expressed that they must have it, otherwise they would not send a Yuning realm master and 12 Jitan realm masters to deal with the younger generation of the Foundation Stage. Even if the younger generation Foundation Stage was very powerful, they would not be spared in the face of such a huge disparity in numbers and realm. At this moment, Yang Chen, below the cadres, sat on the shuttle above the sea and looked at the group coldly. Those people were not prepared very well. It seemed that they did not know that he was coming out of the East China Sea. People of all attributes were there, but there were only 3 people of the water attribute. This position was where Yang Chen specially chose to wait. Otherwise, at the speed of the shuttle, those people simply couldn't catch up. Even if he did not let go of the parcels of the spiritual awareness imprint, the other party couldn't detect it. It might be precisely because of the performance of spiritual awareness imprint on Yang Chen was different from those of the previous ones, so the followers would think that this should not be the bait that Yang Chen left, it should be the body. A dozen guys, their costumes were not uniform at all, and there was no martial art mark on them. If they did not deliberately conceal it, then they were originally rogue cultivators and not part of any sect. But watching these people, he could deduce their good coordination, they did not have an unorganized posture. That could only be explained, even if they were rogue cultivators, they were also secret disciples of a certain sect, they were used as their eyes and ears. There was an open space on the bottom of the sea in this area. Yang Chen was now parked in this open space. He held the bright light sword and was gasping shout yan and waited quietly for the people above. He would like to know who these people were and which sect's thugs they were. Greatest Heaven sect was very suspicious, but several other sects were also equally suspicious. If they would come up with such a squad, then they definitely wanted to capture Yang Chen alive. The temptation of the Ask Inner Heart pill was not something that ordinary people could resist, no matter which sects they were from. The 3 water attributes Cheatin Realm Masters quickly came down from the sea. Their methods were very good. In the sea, there was not a slight tension, so they directly rushed down. In the sea water, the scope of the spiritual awareness had been greatly reduced. Within less than 20 feet, spiritual awareness was also shielded by the sea and couldn't be discovered. If one wanted to know what was going on below, one could only come closer to it to know. Cultivators with non-water attributes, even if they could enter the water and fight in it, they would feel very uncomfortable. Unfortunately, the spiritual awareness thread that Yang Chen released was not within this range. When the other party was still 40 zhang, 3.33 meters away from him, he had already discovered the behavior of the other 3. Splash. Yang Chen's swaying figure disappeared, in place, the shuttle instantly appeared, it again appeared on the back of a Cheatin Realm Master. As soon as the shuttle appeared, the bright light sword in the hands of Yang Chen was directly and viciously stabbed to the back of the opposite party. The vibration of the water flow and the results of the exploration of his spiritual awareness made the Cheatin Realm Master horrified, but he did not immediately panic, a flying sword appeared out of thin air, he then stabbed it at Yang Chen's figure. His body that was originally careful to maintain balance, turned quickly to face Yang Chen. Just as he was fast, Yang Chen was faster. It was very close, Yang Chen's bright light sword still stabbed the opponent's body first. The water blue armor appeared out of thin air on his body, it was transparent in the seawater, almost no trace of it could be seen. There was a slightest pause before the bright light sword broke through and stabbed him directly. But, when Yang Chen's bright light sword had pierced the other's skin and entered the other's body, the other's flying sword also touched Yang Chen's body. However, Yang Chen's body became slightly bright, a golden bell appeared on the looming appearance of his body, the opponent's flying sword only made a squeaky sound, and he could no longer stab. But, the tip of the bright light sword had directly punched the back of the Cheatin Realm Master. The face of the Cheatin Realm Master was startled, but he couldn't make any sound. The air bubbles in his mouth were sprayed, and the surrounding seawater was instantly reddened by blood. After killing him, the disturbance made in the sea alerted the other 2 Cheatin Realm Masters, who came down with a dead person. They found Yang Chen's figure and found that he had already killed the other person in such a short time. They were companions, their eyes rumbled, and the 2 disorderly struck out their flying swords at the body of Yang Chen. Their futile efforts made the 2 guys horrified, they never thought that they would suddenly come up against such a powerful guy. With just a bit of hesitation would determine their life and death. The shuttle appeared again with the speed of lightning, it was on the left side of a Cheatin Realm Master. Yang Chen's bright light sword was struck out. This Cheatin Realm Master subconsciously reached out and then a series of dense scales appeared on his sleeves. Not yet waiting for the array on the scales to start, Yang Chen's bright light sword had already struck his body. The raised arm was futile and it was easily unloaded by Yang Chen's outer sleeves with his arms. A bright red blood color appeared. The hard protection magic weapon didn't have any effect at all. Under the severe pain, the Cheatin Realm Master's eyes were blurred, a sharp blade wiped his neck and brought out a thick blood color. The remaining Cheatin Realm Master was startled greatly, from the beginning they started tracking Yang Chen, even when they have met Yuning stage monster beast in the seabed, they had not been in such a situation. Everybody returned distressed and desperate, but it was only a superficial phenomenon, among them none had died. In just a short while, there were 2 companions who were killed. How could this be accepted? That scared the wits out of the Cheatin Realm Master, he did not want to end up like them, so he rushed directly to the sea level and then slammed against the water surface, rushing out of the sea. Everyone on the sea was watching when the water splashed, making them shocked. They became panicked. It was also discovered by the Yuning ancestor in time and he stopped everyone, calming them down again. However, the bloody spray that slowly came from the sea, together with the two corpses, quickly floated up, letting the group of people know exactly what had happened. "That kid is below us." The Jidan realm master who escaped this time had already seen Yang Chen's figure and hurriedly shouted. As soon as they heard this, the other people's faces seemed to have no more shocking expressions, and all of them were replaced with surprises. After tracking him for more than a year, they had fought hundreds of times with sea monsters. There was almost no trace of him. This time they had finally found him here. Ask Inner Heart pill was huge stimulant, making all the people excited. Two of their companions had died, but it had happened underwater, and not everyone was good in water. However, Yang Chen was not a water cultivator. How long could he stay before he started to suffocate? After he appeared, he would be completely imprisoned by everyone. 10 Jidan realm masters and a Yuning realm ancestor, it would be impossible for a younger generation in the foundation stage to have any other result. Everyone became excited, but no one would belittle the opponent. The bodies of the two Jidan realm masters had already explained everything. But that still happened underwater, unless Yang Chen did not come out for a lifetime, just daring to show his head would seal his fate. The magic weapons of all the people were bright, and the leading Yuning realm ancestor held around things in his hands, he wanted to throw them directly into the sea. When the other people saw them, all of them flew away at a rapid speed. At the same time, they launched their own protection magic weapons and watched the sea below with vigilance. That was the 10th water divine thunder, only a master of the Yuning realm could refine it, in this sea, it was more powerful. Yang Chen wanted to hide under the water. If a 10th water divine thunder explodes underwater, Yang Chen wouldn't escape the shocked wave and may even be seriously injured. This 10th water divine thunder could affect a great area, and even if Yang Chen had a shuttle, he could not instantly escape. Obviously, the other party simply would not give him this opportunity. When the 10th water divine thunder was drowned into the water, Yang Chen noticed that something was wrong. With his current cultivation, it would be hard to resist, plus the golden bell protection, it may be possible, but he would still be affected. The only thing that he could do was to try escaping from it. The other party was simply trying to force him out. Yang Chen was very clear about this. But at this moment, they had already taken care of it. At full power, he rushed out of the sea. It didn't wait for Yang Chen to rush out of the water, soon the 10th water divine thunder exploded below. Boom. A huge sound accompanied by an incomparable shock wave, Yang Chen directly hit the sky from the sea. Within a radius of 10 miles, the sea blasted open, bringing up the water up to the sky. Huge sounds, even if Yang Chen had already prepared and covered his ears, he was still shocked and had a creaking headache. The people in the air didn't wait for Yang Chen to gain balance, two flying swords struck out like ghosts, smashing towards his legs. Until this time, the other party was still attacking with the idea of capturing Yang Chen alive. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 240. Who is crueler and merciless? In the air, Yang Chen was really unable to escape. However, it seemed that Yang Chen himself did not think about avoiding it. Under the sea, the two guys' flying swords struck on the golden bell. Yang Chen was still vivid, he didn't believe that with these people's cultivation bases, they could break through the defense of the golden bell. And it was as Yang Chen expected, the two flying swords tried to make cuts on his two legs, one after the other, but they could only make a clear and squeaky noise, he remained unharmed. Be careful, this kid has a body protection magic weapon. This situation was immediately seen and someone shouted when he saw it. Snort, body protection magic weapon. The cold and violent voice said, the Yuning ancestor was very disdainful to Yang Chen and shouted. Break for me. A red light like a sword was sent from the hands of the Yuning ancestor and went straight to Yang Chen's chest. The several Jidan realm masters around him were shocked. One of them hurriedly shouted. Ancestor, he must live. As if he suddenly remembered the fact that they wanted Yang Chen alive. The red light from the Yuning ancestor suddenly stagnated and then it seemed that the light became weaker, but the speed was not reduced, still hitting Yang Chen's chest. Yang Chen's body had been restored to balance by two flying swords, but he was immediately faced with another blow. This attack was not an attack by a Jidan realm master, but a magic weapon attack by a Yuning realm ancestor. Seeing that the red light had hit Yang Chen's body, but his face was strangely revealing an unpredictable smile. The Yuning realm ancestor felt strange, the attack made a deep bell sound from Yang Chen's body. Buzz, the dull bell sound came from the place where Yang Chen's chest was hit by the attack of the Yuning realm ancestor. An invisible shock wave that could not be seen was spread out and spread around. Wherever it went, whether it was a person or an object, all of them began to tremble with the dull bell sound. Except for Yang Chen, there was no other voice in the ears of all the people. It was completely filled with that sound, and the buzzing sound was endless. The sound seemed to have penetrated everyone's body and got into their sea of consciousness. As the bell began to tremble, their body swayed involuntarily and they couldn't grip anything in their hands. The flying swords in the air seemed to be hit by a huge force. A series of them fell, and the owners of the flying swords could not establish any connection with them. Everyone stayed in place and constantly trembled and could not do anything else. The 10th water divine thunder explosion was very crisp. Yang Chen's body shape appeared directly next to the Yuning ancestor, accompanied by Yang Chen's calm but unconcealed angry voice. The taste of this bell is not bad, right? In fact, Yang Chen himself was also affected by the bell, but the impact was simply negligible relative to other people. Even so, he could only use one martial art before his spiritual power could no longer be condensed and weapons such as flying swords could no longer be used. This bell almost dissipated his spiritual awareness completely. However, for Yang Chen, even if his spiritual power could not be used at all, it would not matter. If Yang Chen could not use spiritual power, his enemies were also unable to use theirs. However, for a Yuning realm master who couldn't use spiritual power, tragedy would inevitably occur when he was faced with Yang Chen, who had cultivated the yellow turban strongman body refining technique, having strength exceeding 200,000 jin. Yang Chen had no concept of holding back. These people came to capture him. Yang Chen would naturally not be soft-hearted. When his big hand stretched out, he directly grasped the back of the head of the Yuning stage ancestor, while his other hand grabbed his shoulders and arms and began to exert force. Under the horror of the Yuning realm ancestor and the surrounding Jitan realm masters, a horrible scream of pain and creepy voice was suddenly heard. The Yuning ancestor that originally was aloof, whose head was connected to his body, was pulled out of the body by the hands of Yang Chen. No matter how much spirit power that had tempered the body of the Yuning ancestor, it was as weak as tofu for Yang Chen, and he directly separated it into two sections. The screams ended abruptly, and the fleshy bones were connected to the whole head. Yang Chen directly threw it to the roots of the blood phantom vine in the medicine garden. The other side of the body was raised in the hands of Yang Chen. Very skillfully he took off the Qianqin bag, and finally it also became blood for the blood phantom vine. As easily he put away the Qianqin bag of the Yuning ancestor, Yang Chen's eyes turned towards the other Jitan masters. For people who had cultivated, there were many ways to kill people. However, it was when using flying swords and other weapons. How could Yang Chen tear a Yuning ancestor's head off with his hand? Not to mention that everyone was still affected by the bell, even if there was no such influence. Watching the scene of Yang Chen tearing off the head of a Yuning ancestor scared them to the soul. There's someone responsible for every grievance. For every debt, there is a debtor. You and I were not resentful in those days, no recent hatred, nor pursuit. Why you must for no reason. Thus, delivers you to start off. While speaking, Yang Chen did not stop. The people around the Yuning ancestor was directly pulled by him and was punched one by one, and instantly there were 6 heads which had exploded. Until this moment, everyone was being gradually weakened by the influence of the bell. Finally the spiritual power could be used again, but the remaining 4 Jitan masters didn't have the courage to attack Yang Chen. Even the Yuning ancestor was not his opponent. The moment from which the spiritual power could be controlled again, the thought of escape took precedent in the minds of the 4 people. However, the moment the Jitan masters were able to use their spiritual power, Yang Chen recovered earlier than them. His mind moved, Wan Qian and the 6 women appeared directly around them, and the 5 sides profound women formation surrounded the 4 Jitan realm masters. Originally facing Yang Chen had been chilling, now suddenly there were 5 more Jitan masters surrounding them, and there was also a Yuning master on the side as a deterrence. The little bit of courage the 4 people had gained was now lost. Awkwardly Yang Chen put them under restriction one by one, and they were afraid to even move around. As soon as they got restricted, Yang Chen had already taken over the girls and appeared in the shuttle with them as captives. The 4 Jitan masters were shocked, but after seeing the surrounding situation, they finally understood why Yang Chen could hide under the sea. What made the 4 people a little uneasy was that after Yang Chen restricted them, he did not ask any questions. He just checked and seized their Qianqin bag slowly and looked at what he was gaining. But the more this was the case, the 4 people's hearts were more and more uneasy. Your surname? Finally, when Yang Chen checked the Qianqin bag one by one, Yang Chen took one of them to sit in front of him and asked. You? He didn't seem to think that Yang Chen would ask such a simple question, and the captive subconscious directly answered with one sentence. What grudge do you have with me? Yang Chen asked again. However, this time, this Jitan master was no longer open, just staring at Yang Chen. Brush, a flash of light flashed, the Jitan master's head flew directly in the air, from the headless neck blood spurted crazily. In the hands of Yang Chen, he held the hilt of the bright ray sword. He didn't look at the flying head. Yang Chen's hand caressed the bright ray sword, just like touching the skin of his lover, patiently and meticulously. Waiting until the blood had sprayed out, Yang Chen slowly and steadily sent the body into the medicine garden to be used as fertilizer. Then he placed the bright ray sword on a table beside him. Actually, I don't want to know your purpose. As Yang Chen would collect all the blood and send it to the medicine garden, the shuttle would not get bloody at all. So, he was unafraid of blood spurting everywhere. He lazily said, because your purpose, I know of it already. Hunting me, you need nothing more than a few reasons. Revenge, or killing me to keep my mouth shut, or murdering me because of some treasure I possess. While continuing his tone, Yang Chen tilted his legs. Killing me needs nothing more than just these few reasons, right? This was actually the truth, even if the remaining three guys were not happy, but they couldn't help but admit Yang Chen's reasoning was not wrong. Killing people for no reason, except for the demon sect juniors or the monster race, Dao cultivators generally would not do it unless it was the last resort. Of course, those who blamed themselves for their self-destruction were not counted, but these people are obviously not that kind of people. Which ancestors were you working for? If any of you tell me, you would get a chance to live. Yang Chen smiled and said. I noticed that you didn't want me to die. It's easier to guess, certainly it was not because of revenge, otherwise you would have tried to kill me, right? Speaking of which, it seems that if a foundation stage younger generation can make a Yuning ancestor with more than a dozen Jitan masters come after him, then could only be about some alchemy crafts. Yang Chen looked at his prisoners in front of him and curiously asked. What do you want? Ask Inner Heart Pill. Heaven Seizing Pill. Which one? The three did not have the slight reaction, they did not know whether it was intentional or not, but Yang Chen's words were like poisonous snakes, ruthlessly plunging into their ears, disintegrating their persistence slowly. Since it's a shackle, I don't want you to die. Yang Chen's words really hit the hearts of the three. If you were asked 1,000 and 10,000, if one really wanted to slay, one would just do it and not wait till now. It was not easy to cultivate to the Jitan realm. If there was an opportunity, no one would be willing to die. As predecessor, I don't know whether you can tell me, still, who sent you to deal with me? Yang Chen's head turned to the leftmost Jitan realm master and he asked him very seriously. Humph. This Jitan realm master gently snorted, seemingly wanting to express his arrogance and displeasure. Later, everyone saw a flash of a sword light, the guy who had just snorted had his head detached and flown from his neck. He had been beheaded by Yang Chen's sword. The remaining two Jitan realm masters' faces became unsightly. They had heard that Yang Chen was a secular world executioner and it really was a well-deserved reputation. No one would have thought that Yang Chen turned out to be so ruthless, irking his displeasure while conversing by making a slight mistake or expressing one's emotions, can make this executioner immediately start. The remaining two Jitan realm masters were all used to life and death, but when they faced Yang Chen, they still couldn't help but tremble. These imperial Jitan realm masters, faced with a descendant of the foundation period, could not even dare to look at him. There's someone responsible for every grievance, for every debt there is a debtor. Yang Chen slightly sighed and shook his head saying, I am not a bloodthirsty person, but I am also not a soft persimmon. If you want to get away with it or want to keep the face of your predecessors, then feel free to try me. You will never gain happiness. In excessive fear, one of the two remaining Jitan realm masters suddenly went mad and shouted at Yang Chen. As you wish. Yang Chen did not even give the other a chance to regret, the moment his mouth closed, the sword fell, the screaming guy's head flew up and as the other old man was high, the spouting blood sprayed on him. The guy who traced me is very smart, he didn't come with you. Putting the blood-dripping bright ray sword to the side, Yang Chen said to the remaining the guy. His spiritual awareness imprint still stays in my sea of consciousness. The remaining guy looked up suddenly and did not seem to understand why Yang Chen said so. But Yang Chen actually knew that the person who was tracking him was not among them and he was somewhat surprised. This also means that you do not absolutely have to say anything. Yang Chen sneered aloud, at the worst, if you don't talk, I will have to look for him personally. Perhaps he is your senior and has more information than you? As he said, Yang Chen's hand had once again touched the hilt of the bright ray sword. This action showed that the fate of the remaining guy was sealed, his body could not help but tremble. I will talk. I will talk. Yang Chen's hand had just lifted that the remaining guy began begging for mercy. He looked distressed, there was no trace of the bearing that a Jitan realm master should have. I am listening. Yang Chen said coldly, but his hand did not leave the hilt. Yes. Just saying a word, the Jitan realm master became startled as if he saw something strange and then said. Yes. After saying these two words, the face of the Jitan realm master showed a stunned look, his body suddenly trembled sharply. Yang Chen sighed and immediately understood. He didn't want to think about it. He picked up the Jitan realm master and threw him out of the shuttle. Then the shuttle sped up and rushed forward. Only after flying more than 20 zhang, the body of the Jitan realm master suddenly blew up in a huge explosion. he turned into a pile of minced meat. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more.